I'm not talking to you. Han Fei interrupted the heavenly monarch, but the latter was full of doubts. Who were you talking to if you weren't talking to me? However, since Han Fei had said so, he could only suppress his curiosity and wait quietly. The world trembled slightly, and Hong Jun said, something happened. Half a day ago, Hong Juan's ominous body descended to the guardian divine realm and corroded nearly half of the star rivers in a moment. Shen Lu and the other two paid a certain price to take my ominous body away from the guardian divine realm. They should be in the vast sea of stars now. You have to find them yourself. Han Fei's heart sank. It was probably not a small matter to make Hong Jun say that they had paid a certain price. Senior sister Shen Lu and the other two must have paid a huge price. Okay. Han Fei thought for a moment and closed the door behind him. Then he looked at the heavenly monarch and the other two and said, you can gather all the strong masters here. If there is really an unresolvable problem in the guardian divine realm, I will take you away. The heavenly monarch and the other two were shocked. The nine heavens mystic fairy hurriedly asked, Master Human Emperor, even you are not confident of defeating those otherworldly sky fiends? In just half an hour, we lost more than 1,300 star rivers and trillions of creatures. Han Fei naturally knew how they felt now. After all, they had no experience in fighting the ominous. They were naturally stunned to encounter an existence at the level of Hong Jun. The heavenly monarch said, fellow Taoist human emperor, who were you talking to just now? What the heavenly monarch was curious about was this. He was the strongest person in the guardian divine realm. But since Han Fei didn't speak to him, did it mean that there was still a super powerhouse in the guardian divine realm? Han Fei said casually, Heavenly Tao. After Han Fei finished speaking, he disappeared from the guardian divine realm with a swish. As for the heavenly monarch and the other two, they seemed to be struck by lightning and couldn't help but look up at the sky, shocked and puzzled. Could the heavenly Tao speak? The primordial star sea was not the chaotic star sea. Han Fei didn't control this place, so he couldn't control the heavenly Tao here. The law of time flashed in Han Fei's eyes. Through the time trace of the aftershock of past battles, Han Fei instantly crossed more than 50 star rivers with a thought. Shen Lu and the others couldn't move quickly in the primordial star sea either, so the place where they fought couldn't be too far away from the guardian god realm. At this moment, in a certain star river in the primordial star sea, an intense battle was going on here. The source of the battle was Shen Lu and an ominous creature at the peak of the dominator level. Cough, cough. Shen Lu was coughing violently. Because of this short distraction, she was blasted back. Besides, every time she coughed, a mass of filthy blood would be coughed out. The peak-level dominator level ominous said brazenly, Shen Lu, your strength has plummeted after you were hit by the ominous forbidden curse. You won't be able to withstand it in the end. However, as long as you make way for me, I can transform you into an ominous creature. At that time, you will be second only to me and above everyone else. In the future, you might even surpass the dominator realm. Behind Shen Lu was a sealed sealing barrier formed by the time-sealing sky lock. And in the sealing barrier, a black coffin would suddenly collide with the time-sealing sky lock every dozens of seconds. Crack. Several cracks appeared on the time-sealing skylock again. In the coffin, a voice roared, Undead, time, the two of you can't trap me. In a moment, I will Kill all of you. The Master of Time's face was very pale, but he had no choice. He had to resist. Senior Brother Undead didn't speak, but it was obvious that he was also in the black coffin at this moment, probably to restrain Hongjuan's ominous body. As for the black coffin, it was also trembling violently. The coffin board that was already broken was almost cut into rotten wood. It was densely packed with cracks and could collapse at any time. Shenle seemed to have temporarily calmed down and said coldly, "If you are destined to take down the Guardian Divine Realm, the moment you take down the Guardian Divine Realm, I will definitely open the Creation Star Compass and release the real Ominous." Ha ha ha. The peak-level Dominator-level Ominous laughed out loud. "You can forget that. This is the Primordial Star Sea, my territory. Even if you let him out, so what? Besides, as I said, I'm not interested in the chaotic Star Sea. I just need to control the Primordial Star Sea. But once you release the Real Ominous, TSK, I will definitely banish him, and the only place I can banish him to is your chaotic Star Sea." Shenle sneered. "So what? Do you think I'll believe you? Will you give up the chaotic Star Sea that has almost fallen?" The other party said, "Shenle, don't say that I didn't give you a chance and suggestion. It takes time for me to control the Primordial Star Sea. As for you, why don't you take this opportunity to go back to the chaotic Star Sea and take the creatures of your sea realm to embark on the path of no return? Look, the path you pursue is on that path. Hanfei has gone there and you should go there too. And I might embark on that path in the future as well. Otherwise, it would be boring to guard these two seas alone." "Humph. Do I believe your nonsense?" Cough, cough. Shenle coughed again, and filthy blood overflowed. Seeing this, the other party couldn't help but smile. "If you are willing to go back and take away the myriad races, I can even remove your curse. Think about it. Otherwise, even if you are here, how can the Death God defend against hundreds of Dominator-level Ominous and peak-level Dominator-level Ominous?" Shenle was also extremely anxious at this moment. This time, the price they paid was really too great. In the past, when eldest senior brother fought the Ominous alone, she thought that as long as she reached eldest senior brother's level, she could fight the real Ominous. However, when she really reached this level, she realized how difficult it was. Not to mention 1,000 years, even a day was an extremely headache. However, she believed that the path of no return was definitely not a place ordinary people could step on. Even peak-level dominators couldn't return after entering it. Otherwise, there would definitely be such cases in history. Even in the primordial era, many people had tested it. Among them, she knew Li Daoyi. Li Daoyi had once said that even if he entered the path of no return, he would try to walk back. If he didn't come back, it meant that the path of no return was a place one could go, but couldn't return. That path could even suppress peak-level dominators, so it was definitely not something ordinary people could step on. If I hadn't cooperated with you once, I might have been tricked by you. Oh. By the way, how long did we cooperate last time? I remember it wasn't even half a day. At this moment, a voice sounded leisurely, his tone full of playfulness. Buzz. The peak-level dominator-level Ominous hurriedly looked at the source of the voice, but he didn't see anything. In the next moment, the voice sounded again, you are indeed not at the Ominous level. You are just a powerful ominous creature, half a step into the immortal level. Someone was stepping into the range of the 49 star rivers. Shenli's eyes lit up as she said in joy, "Little junior brother?" The Master of Time was also overjoyed and shocked. The peak level dominator level ominous expression changed drastically. How? Is it possible? How did you return? This is impossible. Han Fei chuckled. I've heard many people say that today, but look, am I not standing right in front of you? Ah. In the next moment, a holy brilliance enveloped senior sister Shenlu. Accompanied by a large amount of steaming black fog, senior sister Shenli's expression was especially painful. Han Fei quickly stopped and frowned deeply. Ha ha ha. The peak level dominator level ominous couldn't help but laugh out loud. This is an ominous forbidden curse. How can you purify it so easily? Senior sister Shenlu said, "Little junior brother, I was corroded by the ominous matter in the end. This corrosion permeated my Tao technique and soul." Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. It doesn't matter. Senior sister, as long as you return to the chaotic star sea, I can solve it for you. Huh? Shenlu couldn't help being overjoyed. Really? Han Fei smiled and said, "Of course. And I suspect that there should be more than one way to resolve this ominous forbidden curse. However, let me kill this guy first." Shenlu said, "Be careful. This peak level dominator level ominous was sacrificed. It's actually a part of Hongjuan's ominous body." Han Fei nodded slightly and then raised his hand, and the blood sky blade appeared in his hand. He instantly appeared beside the dominator level ominous. The latter's reaction was not slow either. A small piece of ominous matter emerged from his body. He chose to use the ominous matter to test Han Fei's strength. However, Han Fei just sneered and slashed out the astonishing power of 50 pieces of Star River origin. The knife light was extremely powerful, turning into great Tao runes that filled the sky. As for the dominator level ominous, he wanted to use his strength, only to find that his great Tao and law immediately collapsed the moment they left his body, which shocked him. The 10 divine vines between Han Fei's eyebrows attacked, enveloping the ominous matter. And under Han Fei's slash, half of the dominator level ominous creature's body was almost shattered. Unfortunately, he couldn't fully exert the 4th level of the path of invincibility yet, so he couldn't instantly kill this peak level dominator level ominous. After all, it was because he had controlled the heavenly Tao of the chaotic star sea that he could control the chaos and mobilize all the laws of the chaos. However, in the primordial star sea, he didn't master the heavenly Tao and laws here, so at this moment, he was only suppressing it with his immortal realm and strength. However, even so, the control of the great Tao of the immortal level was not something this peak level dominator level ominous could compare to. As long as the ominous creature dared to use his Tao on him, he could instantly make it collapse. The peak level dominator level ominous seemed to sense how terrifying Han Fei was and immediately exclaimed, "You made a breakthrough?" He made a breakthrough? Shenli's heart trembled, and the Master of Time, who was struggling to hold on, was also refreshed. Had he really made a breakthrough in the mysterious Taoless realm? Bang! In the time-sealing sky lock, Hongjuan's ominous body in the black coffin seemed to have become manic. Although he was also ramming crazily before, he was not in a hurry at that time. This was because no matter if it was the primordial star sea or the chaotic star sea, there was no power that could restrain him. As long as he waited for a moment, he would be able to break free. In another half a day, he would be able to fight his way back to the guardian god realm. Why can he still return? Roar. The violent Hongjun ominous body roared. In the next moment, with a loud bang, a deafening sound burst out of the black coffin, and the cracks on the coffin lid gradually enlarged. The Master of Time shouted, "Han Fei." Han Fei's pupils were constricted slightly. Dazzling divine brilliance burst out of his body, and endless great Tao runes burst out of his body. The entire star rivers where they were began to tremble, the void hummed, and then cracks appeared. Yes, countless cracks appeared in a star river, as if they were about to split this star river into billions of pieces. In those cracks was the original color of the star rivers. It turned out that what cracked was an ominous mist. Laws filled the sky, and thousands of great Daos overflowed from these cracks. At the same time, infinite light burst out, instantly enveloping the entire star rivers. Ah! The peak-level dominator-level ominous was roaring, and its body was burning. It was the light of endless laws shining on its body, burning the ominous and cutting off the possibility of it absorbing power from the ominous mist. Han Fei turned his blade and slashed nearly 10,000 times in an instant, disassembling it into tens of millions. At the same time, the ominous river of life at the peak of the dominator level appeared, and Han Fei cut it with his hand as a knife. Boom! Han Fei. The black coffin exploded, and the peak-level dominator-level ominous died under Han Fei's knife at the same time. It couldn't be helped. The primordial star sea wasn't his floor after all. It wasn't convenient to fight here. Destroying a peak-level dominator level ominous also wasted some of Han Fei's time. But even if Han Fei thought things weren't going too smoothly, in the eyes of Shen Lu and the Master of Time, it was extremely shocking. Is this what it means to be above the dominator level? It's simply inhuman. Not only did it forcibly sever the connection between this star river and the other star rivers, but it also commands all the great Tao laws in this star river in a few seconds. That power is almost equivalent to instantly launching billions of laws at the dominator level ominous creature. Therefore, this move directly purified the dominator level ominous. Except for energy crystals, not even a slag was left. Of course, Han Fei didn't unleash such a powerful force just for the dominator level ominous. At this moment, behind Han Fei, endless great Tao runes enveloped half of the star river. Those great Daos and laws were gathering crazily, as if they wanted to transform into a sword embryo. On the opposite side, the coffin lid was broken and overturned. Han Fei looked around and only saw Hongjuan's ominous body, but he didn't see senior brother undead. However, Han Fei saw some broken bones, with weak will and vitality. Every black and shiny bone had several cracks. If he had come half an hour later, these bones might have been obliterated. Old 3. Feng Yu's expression changed drastically. Obviously, senior brother undead had paid a huge price to forcibly lock Hongjuan's ominous body in the black coffin. Immediately, Han Fei's heart sank, and he said coldly, "Thank you for your kindness. You sent me to the path of no return. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to make a breakthrough. What a blessing in disguise." Hongjun sneered and took out the broken hand at the same time. He shook his hand and shattered his arm, pressing the broken hand to his broken arm. Hongjuan's ominous body said, Han Fei, you can't kill me. Why don't we each take a step back? I'll give you the chaotic star sea, and maybe you can take away the remnants of the 6 lineages of the primordial star sea and the creation jade plate itself. From now on, let's mind our own business, okay? Han Fei sneered. Why? You haven't really entered the realm above the Dominator. Do you think you're qualified to contend with me just with that hand? Neither Hongjuan's ominous body nor the real ominous had stepped into the immortal level. This had been known after Han Fei made the breakthrough. Or rather, the two of them were only half immortals. Otherwise, regardless of whether the ominous was stronger than the myriad races, it was not something a peak-level dominator of the myriad races could resist. However, in a real battle, they were indeed very strong, and it was difficult for peak-level dominators to keep them in check. This meant that they had barely reached the immortal level. However, the ominous was different from Han Fei's current situation. Han Fei could control the heavenly Tao and the primordial chaos, but the ominous could only swallow. In other words, they had used some kind of power to reach the immortal level. But they lacked a qualitative leap. Therefore, they needed to complete this complete breakthrough by swallowing a sea of stars. However, if they wanted to completely swallow the source of chaos or the source of primordial purple chi, they needed to swallow the sea of stars whole before they could go deep into the foundation. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao itself would resist and resist. This was also why they had been attacking the chaotic star sea and the primordial star sea for so many years. Therefore, when Han Chani asked Han Fei if it was dangerous, he said that he could fight them. Han Fei snorted, and the sword body formed by the 10,000 runes behind him that spanned half of the Star River suddenly attacked. And Han Fei was already standing on the sword. Hongjuan's ominous body grabbed the black coffin and smashed it at Han Fei. But after he threw the black coffin out, the space had collapsed and changed. In the next moment, the black coffin appeared directly in front of Senior Sister Shenlu. This Star River had already been controlled by Han Fei, and the Tao here was Han Fei's Tao. Therefore, it was impossible for Hongjuan's ominous body to use the black coffin as a shield. Seeing this, Shenlu immediately pressed down on the black coffin and examined the broken bones. Hongjuan's ominous body's pupils were constricted. You can control the primordial star sea? Han Fei chuckled. As long as there is a great Tao, I can control it. Therefore, it doesn't matter where it is. Han Fei said, Senior Sister, time, stay away. Upon hearing this, the two of them immediately retreated. They were both in a bad state. They would only become burdens here. Hongjuan's ominous body also snorted coldly. Human Emperor, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Since you insist on fighting, let's fight. Do you really think you're the only one who can control the heavenly Tao? As he spoke, the unknown arm of Hongjuan's ominous body burst out with a strange light. In the sky, the scene when Han Fei shattered the ominous jest now appeared again. At this moment, this Star River was filled with black cracks. However, unlike Han Fei, who summoned the great Tao laws, in the next moment, this place collapsed, billions of stars were shattering, and the darkness turned into a hurricane, also intertwined with dense, great chaos, shaking the Star Rivers here, triggering a monstrous wave of ominous mist. Huh? Han Fei frowned. Something was wrong. If the other party could completely show The power of the immortal level, the real ominous, could have done it long ago. If that was the case, even eldest senior brother probably wouldn't be able to resist them. Why did he have to fight the strong masters of the myriad races? For several eras? Therefore, why didn't the real ominous use this power? The answer to all this was in that hand. At this moment, this starry river seemed to have been cut in half. One half was a sword, showing off its sharpness, and the other half was like a tide, surging with furious waves. Buzz. The void was trembling and collapsing, and the entire Star River was like a collapsing house, producing cracking sounds. Bang! The two sides collided, entangled, and fought fiercely. The divine chains of order, the light of laws, and the power of the great Tao collided. The world was opening and closing, and the universe was collapsing. Han Fei felt that the terrifying divine might that emerged from the broken arm was stronger than he had expected. In terms of strength, Hongjuan's ominous body was even stronger than his. He laughed out loud. Han Fei, you have no idea what kind of power you are facing. Retreat now. I'll keep my word and won't touch your chaotic star sea. However, Han Fei sneered. You're just borrowing strength, but I'm using my own strength. At the end of the path of invincibility, I'm least afraid of fighting. I can keep fighting until the end of time and the sea of stars collapses. Can you? How long can you be so strong? Hongjun roared, not only am I strong, but I can also kill you. However, after only 3 hours of fierce fighting, Han Fei discovered that something was wrong. Hongjuan's ominous body seemed to have gone a little crazy. The unknown arm was flashing with black light, and the originally dry and skinny arm gradually became full, while Hongjuan's ominous body gradually became incorporeal. Not only Han Fei, but even the Hongjun ominous body had discovered this. Therefore, Hongjuan's ominous body roared repeatedly and even tried to cut off his arm, but no matter what, he couldn't do it. Instead, the ominous matter controlled by Hongjuan's ominous body was all spraying out. His body inexplicably became broken, and his power seemed to be sucked by that arm. Ominous, you set me up. Hongjuan's ominous body was roaring. Han Fei was a little surprised and horrified. He seemed to have guessed that there was definitely something wrong with this arm. On the path of no return, the real ominous gave this arm to Hongjuan's ominous body. Was he really not afraid that Hongjun would burn the bridge after crossing it and harm him? Obviously, they were all old monsters who had lived for billions of years. Who didn't have 1,000 thoughts? Hongjuan's ominous body was too complacent, thinking that everything was in his plan and others would die on the path he set for them. However, sometimes, not fighting was also a kind of fighting. The more complacent, confident, and arrogant he was, the more he would end up as the saddest clown. Why didn't the ominous use the power of this arm after being trapped in the sea of stars for many eras? Why did Hongjuan's ominous body dare to use this power? Hongjuan's ominous body couldn't be a fool. He knew that there was something wrong with the arm, but he still used it. Obviously, the ominous had deceived him in some aspects. For example, driving this arm required a large amount of ominous matter, or for some other reason that he didn't know. But there must be a reason that made Hongjuan's ominous body think that he could drive this arm. Anyway, Hongjuan's ominous body had been tricked. At this moment, he used this arm at the price of sacrificing himself. However, whether there was anything wrong with Hongjuan's ominous body or not, Han Fei had to take action now. He couldn't just watch the power of the arm continue to grow. Just a severed arm was qualified to contend with an immortal-level cultivator. How strong would the owner of this arm be? Han Fei opened his palm, and 5 beams of divine light flew out, trying to imprison the void and seal the arm. The latter punched dozens of times in a row in the blink of an eye, breaking Han Fei's imprisonment. Then, Han Fei discovered that his power to annihilate the great Tao was ineffective against Hongjuan's ominous body. Or rather, it was ineffective against that arm. At this moment, Hongjuan's ominous body seemed to be lost and he no longer spoke. What really attacked Han Fei had become that arm. Could it be the arm of a Taoist realm cultivator? Han Fei made a bold guess. To be able to annihilate the power of the immortal and suppress him in strength, he had to be at least in the same realm as him. But one arm was comparable to an immortal. If his complete body was still there, would he still be an immortal? Unfortunately, Hongjuan's ominous body had already fallen silent and seemed to have become the puppet of that arm. Who are you? Han Fei asked warily, wondering if the hand could respond. Unfortunately, the hand extended 5 fingers and controlled Hongjuan's ominous body to attack him, forcibly suppressing the heavenly Tao here. However, how could Han Fei let him have his way? He snorted coldly. It doesn't matter if you don't tell me. Your strength is also limited. If you were strong enough to shake an immortal, the chaotic star sea and the primordial star sea would have long become yours. Why would you wait until now? Let me see what you are. Han Fei's body emitted infinite light, and he immediately clenched his fist and punched out. The sky collapsed and the earth collapsed. He wanted to fight this hand in close combat. Only in close combat could he dominate. Boom, boom, boom. Knock, knock, knock. This battle lasted for 3 days and destroyed more than 300 star rivers. In the end, the arm couldn't hold on anymore. As Han Fei said, he could remain invincible. In terms of realm, he was stronger than Hongjuan's ominous body. In terms of strength, he might be a little lacking in the early stages, but the more he fought, the braver he became. Countless origin great Daos had been used by Han Fei, and he took the chance to familiarize himself with them one by one. And this arm gradually seemed to become a sparring partner. Han Fei shouted, no matter how long you fight, you're just a broken hand. As for me, I'm invincible. All my techniques and infinite great Daos are nothing to me. And your strength is drying up. Han Fei shouted, but he knew in his heart that it was meaningless to fight like this. It might even take years. Han Fei roared, Senior Sister, inform Hongjun to shrink the creation jade plate and open the passage between the 2 worlds. Shen Lu and the Master of Time had been following Han Fei. They had also witnessed the power of the immortal level. When the 2 of them fought, on average, they would shatter a star river every day. How terrifying was their combat power? Hearing this, Shen Lu immediately understood what Han Fei meant. He wanted to take Hongjuan's ominous body into the chaotic star sea. That hand was naturally unwilling. The chaotic star sea was Han Fei's home ground. When he got there, he would definitely be completely suppressed. Therefore, he wanted to escape. Unfortunately, although they were both immortals, Han Fei was still in his complete state. How could he let him escape? Another half a month later, Han Fei, together with the demon purification pot, forcibly drove the arm into the passage between the 2 worlds. Bang! Han Fei's fist dazzled the sea of stars, and wind and thunder rumbled. His momentum was shocking. As soon as he entered the chaotic star sea, he was like a supreme god, carrying the momentum of the sea of stars as he punched the broken arm out of the mud sea. For a moment, the star river here was in turmoil, and the infinite heavenly Tao and billions of laws were all under Han Fei's control. At this moment, because the severed arm didn't control the chaos, it couldn't resist Han Fei anymore and was finally caught by the demon purification vine. Swish! 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 Instantly, 10 vines locked down, and Han Fei finally suppressed the broken arm. At this moment, a voice slowly came from the arm. Guard my hand. I will come to you eventually. This was the first time the broken arm spoke, but Han Fei wasn't surprised. Han Fei sneered. Sure enough, you have always been conscious and can speak. Don't worry. You don't have to come to me. Maybe I'll come to you. The hand didn't respond again. At the same time, Hongjuan's ominous body, who had been in the puppet state, had just woken up when he saw that he had been caught by the demon purification pot. Seeing this state, he knew that he had no chance. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was desperate. Han Fei said, You haven't been sucked to death yet? Hongjuan's ominous body said, Humph, if you hadn't stepped into the immortal level and returned from the path of no return, I would have long taken down the primordial star sea. Han Fei sneered. There are no ifs in this world. If you lose in one move, you lose the entire game. You shouldn't have become the ominous from the beginning. Shouldn't have become the ominous? Hongjuan's ominous body laughed. Han Fei, you know too little. The world you and I have seen is limited. Do you know where these arms come from? A pair of arms? Han Fei frowned slightly. Hongjun said, Do you think the real ominous doesn't have any trump cards at all? Do you think he doesn't have another hand? Han Fei said, Obviously, once you use this hand, you will be lost and become puppets. That's not it. Hongjuan's ominous body was a little irritable and angry. He scolded angrily. It's him. These two hands are actually usable. He and I are independent. Consciousness is born from these two arms. How can I become a puppet with my own hands? However, I was taken away by Hongjun in the past and my arm was left in the world divine mirror. Who knew that the ominous would wake up a wisp of consciousness of the original body? No wonder he returned this hand to me so easily. What a good plan. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, Your original body? What is your original body? As I said, I was an independent consciousness born from the arms, but I was awakened by Hongjun, so I don't know my original body well. But even that little information let me know how vast the world is. Han Fei, the winner, takes all. Although I'm unwilling, I still lost in the end. However, don't think you've really won. My original body's consciousness had once awakened. Here. One day, he, an existence stronger than immortals, will come here. Han Fei's pupils were constricted. The severed hand had already threatened him just now. However, Han Fei sneered. I've also somewhat comprehended the realm above the immortal level. What do you mean by the world is vast? Hongjuan's ominous eyes revealed a trace of yearning. I don't know the details, but I know that the primordial and the chaos exist in the first place. The creators only used them, not created them. And there are at least 5 existences like the primordial and the chaos. Hanfei was horrified. There were at least 5 other huge seas of stars like the chaotic star sea and the primordial star sea? He couldn't help but wonder what this world was like. Buzz. At this moment, Hongjuan's ominous body was getting more and more incorporeal. And half of the broken arm had melted. Half of it must have been swallowed by the demon purification pot with some power. Hongjuan's ominous body smiled miserably. Han Fei, he will find you. Eventually. Han Fei's eyes were fierce. Anyway, you are not him. He has nothing to do with you. Do you know how to destroy this arm? It can't be destroyed. Ha ha ha. As Hongjuan's ominous body laughed out loud, he completely turned incorporeal. And the arm was completely swallowed by the demon purification pot. Han Fei looked solemn. Shen Lu and the Master of Time also came to Han Fei. They had heard the conversation of Han Fei and Hongjuan's ominous body. Shen Lu said, "Little junior brother, don't be swayed by him. Even if there are stronger existences, even if there is an unknown sea of stars, so what? Hasn't our cultivation path always been like this? There is always someone stronger, and there is always a mountain higher. We can just proceed and cherish as we go." Han Fei nodded slightly and asked, "How is senior brother undead?" Shen Li's expression was solemn as he shook his head slightly. "I can't revive him. It must be that Hongjuan's ominous body used the power of the immortal level to leave the coffin. That's what it's called, right? He's only left with incomplete bones and his vitality is extremely weak." Cough, cough. Senior sister Shen Lu coughed up blood again, her face pale. With a thought from Han Fei, Shen Lu felt that her great Tao was dissipating. In the next moment, the demon purification pot's vines pierced through her body one after another, and the ominous forbidden curse that corroded her was disintegrating. Han Fei said, "When you reach the immortal level, you can grasp 10,000 Daos and the Tao of origin. After I control the star rivers, the heavenly Tao of the entire chaotic star sea will be controlled by me. Therefore, as long as you are in the chaotic star sea, no matter how your Tao is shattered, I can help you recover. Therefore, when your Tao is shattered, you can take the opportunity to remove the curse." Shen Lu said, "I did understand, but I haven't reached this realm yet, so I still don't understand. However, my little junior brother is really something. You've become the first immortal in the entire chaotic star sea." As she spoke, Shen Lu glanced at the Master of Time, who snorted. "If there is one, there will be 2. Shen Lu sneered. "Even if there is the second one, he won't be from your time temple, but can only be from our void temple. By the way, little junior brother, how to revive old 3? Han Fei summoned the river of life and connected the river of life for senior brother undead. Then, he waved his hand, and the surrounding dozens of star rivers and endless resources gathered to rebuild undead's body. After a while, Han Fei pondered and said, "Senior brother undead's injuries are indeed very serious. The river of life has been connected for the time being, but its will is a little scattered. This is not something I can control. Senior brother undead has to rely on himself. As for when he can revive, I don't know. Alas." Shen Lu sighed slightly. "Old 3 is really tough. He's the only one in our void temple who is like eldest senior brother. He's lonely." Han Fei's heart stirred, and his eyes glittered. "Perhaps senior brother undead can take eldest senior brother's path. Shenle shook her head. We can't leave. Undead is transformed from the 6 lineage fruit. Although he looks like a skeleton, he has a heart. Han Fei said, we can steal its heart. Huh? Shenle was speechless. What do you mean? Han Fei said leisurely, because eldest senior brother has found the path behind the Tao of all living beings. Buzz. Shenle and the Master of Time both looked at Han Fei in shock. The Master of Time asked, how do you know? Han Fei said, on the path of no return, I saw the inheritance left by eldest senior brother. Shenle's eyes lit up. Well, is eldest senior brother's path different? Is the immortal level above the Dominator realm? Han Fei shook his head. Perhaps there are many ways to go to the back. The road eldest senior brother found is not suitable for us. Senior sister, you said that senior brother undead and eldest senior brother are the most similar. If okay. Sure enough, Shenle agreed. Let's do that. Han Fei asked, aren't you going to consider it? Shenle chuckled. What's there to consider? Do you really think anyone can enter the immortal level? If it's so simple, how can you be the only one since ancient times? Han Fei nodded slightly. What he wanted to do was simple. He didn't know how long it would take for senior brother undead to revive. At that time, if there was a chance, he could put his heart in the inheritance cave of the eldest senior brother of the dragon subduing island. If one day, senior brother undead would go to the dragon subduing island, he might be able to comprehend it. Of course, Han Fei didn't know if this would work. But if it worked, in the future, another super powerhouse above the Dominator realm might be born. In the chaotic star sea. The Master of Time was silent for a moment. Han Fei, what do you think if I take off my heart? Han Fei sneered. I don't know you well. The Master of Time said, you're already in the immortal level. Why are you still so petty? Han Fei snorted. You only have time in your heart. Are you lonely? Yes. Be asterisk shit. Shenle interrupted the two of them. Alright, enough chit-chat. There is still an ominous. Han Fei smiled. I'll go meet him. In the creation star compass. Wherever the ominous was, everything would be contaminated, including the creation star compass. However, after what Jiang Taishu did in the past, its inside had long been broken, and the energy contained in it was not enough to support the breakthrough of a dominator. Therefore, except for attacking the creation star compass itself, the real ominous had nothing to do here. When Han Fei entered the creation star compass, the ominous was bombarding the creation star compass. This place was already full of cracks, but these cracks were not enough for the ominous to go out in a short period of time. According to this fighting style, it would probably take at least a few months. When Han Fei came in, the real ominous suddenly stopped and said in disbelief. Impossible. Han Fei smiled. That's what Hongjuan's ominous body said. The ominous pupils were constricted, and he was silent for a moment. He lost? You don't seem surprised at all? You can even return from the path of no return. What's there to be surprised about if he's defeated? Han Fei glanced at the world in the creation star compass and said, I'm very curious. You can use the power of the immortal. Why don't you use it? If you use it, I'm afraid the creation star compass won't be able to trap you for so long. Oh, you know the immortal realm? It seems that you've made a breakthrough? The real ominous sneered. Hongjuan's ominous body must have used the power of that hand, right? What's the result? Han Fei narrowed his eyes and said, he suffered a backlash and completely lost consciousness. The ominous sneered. If you want to destroy someone, make him self-inflated. He claims to be smart and has many schemes, but he knows too little about the power of our original body. No matter how many schemes he has, he is just a clown. Even if you don't return, he won't be able to subdue the primordial star sea. Oh? Why do you say that? The ominous said with a hint of mockery, this question is very stupid. When the severed limb appears, you should know that what the demon purification pot and the creation jade plate want to seal is never the ominous matter, but the severed limb. Although he was also a consciousness born from the severed limb, he doesn't know much about the severed limb and thinks he can use it. In fact, the number of times he can use this thing is extremely limited. It might not matter if he uses it once, but if he uses it for a long time, he will be courting death. It will take him at least several years to refine the primordial origin. But if he uses the severed limb, he can obtain the power of the immortal level and control the primordial star sea in a few months. With me in the creation star compass, he must feel pressure in his heart, so he will definitely use the severed limb. However, he doesn't know that once he continues to use the severed limb, he will suffer a backlash. Therefore, he will definitely lose. Han Fei frowned. I also saw with my own eyes that you used the power of that arm. Why didn't you suffer a backlash? Besides, you used your severed limbs to descend into the chaotic star sea. Isn't it considered continuous use? The ominous sneered. Why do you think I sacrificed the dominator level? Ominous? To pave the way for me? It's just to let them suffer the backlash in my place. Do you really think the power of the immortal level alone can't open the passage between the two worlds? Han Fei couldn't help but take a deep look at the ominous. It seems that you are the one who schemes. No wonder you fought me with a broken limb. It turns out that you deliberately showed it to deceive him? Han Fei asked, what is your original body? Kakik. The ominous smiled ominously. I'm about to die. Why should I tell you? With that said, the ominous took out another severed limb and put it on his body reluctantly. Then he said, I might be no match for you or die. However, don't think you can have an easy time. Our original bodies will sense the existence of our clones. One day, he will find this place. At that time, you will see what true fear is. Boom. The ominous didn't tell Han Fei much. It just wanted to tell Han Fei that a stronger existence would come to intimidate him. Han Fei immediately made the creation star compass spit out the sea of stars. And the two of them fought fiercely in the chaotic star sea. However, this was not the primordial star sea. Even if the ominous barely used the power of the immortal level, it only took Han Fei less than half an hour to suppress it with his control of the chaotic star sea and the full power of the demon purification pot. At this point, the chaotic star sea and the primordial star sea finally welcomed peace. What Han Fei didn't know was that at the moment when the ominous was suppressed by the demon purification pot, in the primordial star sea, the void trembled, and pieces of the void actually glowed. Gradually, these voids intertwined and formed a huge mirror. The mirror quickly compressed and finally turned into a palm-sized mirror. With a swish, it turned into a stream of light and disappeared from the vast sea of stars. The battle was over. Shenle said, this war that has lasted from the chaotic era to today is finally over. I suddenly feel inexplicably relaxed. The Master of Time asked, did the demon purification pot destroy that thing? Or was it just a seal? Han Fei said, it's just a seal. Senior Sister Shenlu, you should have heard it. These two ominous creatures are probably not in their complete forms. Wait a minute. Shenle raised her eyebrows. I don't want to hear it? Shenlu was speechless. Can't you let me rest for a day? Just a day. Han Fei was amused. Senior Sister, can you still sleep at this level? Shenle snorted. It's none of your business. Anyway, I'm going back to sleep. Until I wake up. Han Fei shrugged. Okay, go to sleep. I'm going to the primordial star sea. I have to consider whether to close the passage between the two worlds. Shenle said, go. You have the final say in the current chaotic star sea. The Master of Time was resentful. Han Fei ignored him, but it didn't matter. He was too lazy to talk back. Another moment later. Protect the divine realm. The heavenly monarch and the others were still waiting for Han Fei's news. Now, in order to give up the passage between the two worlds, there were only 800 star rivers left. When Han Fei arrived again, the heavenly monarch hurriedly went forward. Fellow Taoist human emperor, how is it going? Have you resolved the otherworldly demons? This time, Han Fei was not in a hurry to chat with Hong Jun. Instead, he nodded and said, yes. The strongest extraterrestrial demons have been resolved. Besides, from now on, there will be no extraterrestrial demons of that level in the primordial star sea. Huff. The heavenly monarch immediately heaved a long sigh of relief. He was really afraid. He had never seen such a strong extraterrestrial demon. In a moment, it annihilated more than 1,000 star rivers, which was shocking. Supreme Tao Monarch hurriedly said, Master Human Emperor, may I ask, can we go to the other side to take a look? Han Fei thought for a moment. This could be allowed. There were only 800 star rivers left in the primordial star sea, and there were as many as billions of star rivers covered by the ominous mist. He didn't control primordial chaos, so he couldn't purify this place at once. In that case, the passage between the two worlds couldn't be left open for a long time. At least, he could make an attempt. Seeing that the 9 heavens mystic fairy and the heavenly monarch were also looking at him expectantly, Han Fei thought for a moment and said, I'll consider it. Wait a moment. I'll talk to your heavenly Tao. The three of them felt that it was ridiculous. Could the heavenly Tao be chatted with? Han Fei looked up at the sky. Hong Juan's will was branded in his mind. You made it. Han Fei smiled. Yes. I made it. However, I have some bad news. The ominous. And your ominous body you and I saw might not be the complete ominous. Hong Jun was silent for a few seconds before saying, so? Han Fei said, in the distant future, or it might not be that far away, the flames of war might spread again. However, at that time it might not be my war. Hong Jun sighed. In that case, I have a presumptuous request. Oh? Senior, just tell me. Hong Jun asked, you're from the 6 lineages after all. Can you leave some inheritance in the primordial star sea? No problem. Han Fei didn't hesitate. Eldest senior brother had left, senior brother undead. Had fallen into a deep sleep, and he still owed the Void Temple a disciple. He could leave a test of the Void Temple in the primordial star sea. Hanfei smiled and said, I'll arrange this matter later, but my test will be abnormally strict. Perhaps no one will be able to pass it in millions of years. In addition, I'll leave the reincarnation path of 6 Daos behind. In this way, the passage between the two worlds can be opened for a long time. Now, both worlds have a lot of things to do. It's time to give birth to more children. In addition, the chaotic star sea can provide some combat power that can help the primordial star sea resist the ominous mist. Although most of the dominators have died, there are still many ominous creatures of various levels. It's still a long way to go to reclaim the primordial star sea. Hongjun was silent for a moment and then said, Thank you. Hanfei paused and said in the end, By the way, let me give you a suggestion. After the primordial star sea recovers, you can try to create another divine vine. Oh? Hanfei said, I've taken your divine vine, so I'd like to give you something. In return, you can try reincarnation. Perhaps the primordial star sea will have one more immortal. Thank you. Hanfei smiled, thinking that if the ominous came again in the future, he didn't want to fight alone. Even if he was still here, it would be a problem. Whether he could defeat it or not. When Hanfei lowered his head, the heavenly monarch hurriedly said, Fellow Daoist human emperor, how is it? Did you have a good chat? Buzz. In the next moment, 6 purple doors suddenly appeared around Hanfei, which stunned the heavenly monarch and the others. Hanfei patted the heavenly monarch's shoulder and said, This thing is called the reincarnation path of 6 Daos. Since you are the strongest in the primordial star sea, I'll leave this thing to you. But you have to remember that this thing concerns the reincarnation of billions of people in the primordial star sea. Whoever holds this thing can't pass the passage between the two worlds. This thing can't be obtained by evil people and can't be abused. In short, before the ominous mist in this vast sea of stars is dispelled, this thing is more important than your life. Immediately, the heavenly monarch was refreshed, and the hands in his sleeves were trembling slightly. I won't disappoint you, fellow Daoist human emperor. Hanfei nodded slightly, then turned around and left. He didn't stop until he reached the entrance of the passage between the two worlds. Without looking back, he said casually, You can send someone over to prepare for the matters regarding the connection between the two worlds. 1,000 years later. It had been 1,000 years since the ominous was sealed. Now, it was called a new era, also known as the Origin Era, because there was no ominous in this world anymore, but the vast sea of stars had been destroyed. In the end, everything seemed to have returned to the beginning, when the world was first created and the myriad races hadn't risen. The chaotic star sea welcomed a long-lost peace. The population of the myriad races also entered an era of outbreak. Most of the strong masters above the monarch level in the chaotic star sea went to the primordial star sea. It couldn't be helped. It would take a long time for the endless creatures and opportunities in the vast chaotic star sea to completely revive. And the war in the primordial star sea was still ongoing. That was where the strong masters continued to grow. In the primordial star sea, wars were happening one after another, leaving behind many touching stories. As for the chaotic star sea, it was full of vitality. There were too many people who were too tired Just like senior sister Shenlu, they needed to rest, relax, and enjoy this rare peace. The curse of the dragon race had been removed and had returned to the sea realm. These guys began to eat meat every day until Han Fei personally stopped them. Otherwise, another mass extinction would have occurred. The lineage of strange beasts had also recovered. It wasn't until now that Han Fei knew that the Emperor Sparrow grew so fast because this guy had swallowed the dragon body of the ancient divine dragon, an existence that could fight the ominous in the chaotic era. Little Black and Little White were still swallowing star rivers, but their swallowing speed was getting faster and faster. Even so, it would take them about 8,000 years to become sea-quelling gods. However, Han Fei was not in a hurry. They could just take time swallowing. On this day, in the sea realm under the mysterious world tree in the West Wilderness, Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan, Shimen Linglan, Zhang Xuanyu, Yi Xian, Lu Renquang, Lin Ji, Lu Renquang's wife, Luo Xiaobai, Han Chani, Zhang Panpan, the Hexagon Starfish. A large group of people were drinking around a big table. Lu Renquang said, "I've summoned everyone today to congratulate Xiaobai for surpassing us, becoming a sea-quelling god from a great monarch in one go. Come on, let's raise our glasses. Congratulations, Xiaobai. Congratulations, Auntie Xiaobai." Sizzle, ah. Luo Xiaobai seemed to have a rare smile on her face. She couldn't make it to the ultimate battle against the ominous, but it wasn't a pity. If Han Fei didn't return, she would have to participate in the battle anyway, because the last of the 7 divine realms, the world tree, was in her hands. She knew what everyone meant. Everyone felt that her feelings were fading, so they specially gathered at this moment to let her feel this friendship and warmth. "Thank you," Zhang Xuanyu said, "Xiaobai. It's not that I want to criticize you, but you can actually try accepting a man, okay? Give yourself a wild romance." Lu Renquang said, "I think so." "Xiaobai, tell me what your standards are." Luo Xiaobai glanced at the two of them casually and said reproachfully, "Get lost." Xia Xiaochan also said, "I think they're right. Unfortunately, Xiaobai, you improved too fast and suddenly became a sea-quelling god. Even if men are interested in you, I'm afraid not many people dare to pursue you." "Xiaobai, why? Don't you go to the mortal world to gain experience?" Luo Xiaobai glanced at Xia Xiaochan helplessly. "Why are you getting involved?" Han Fei was thinking about what cultivation technique suitable for Luo Xiaobai. Before he said anything, Han Chani said, "How can others be worthy of Auntie Xiaobai? Only my father is worthy of her. Auntie Xiaobai, let's be a family. My father is very good at coaxing people. He will definitely make you happy every day." Puff. 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 Han Fei, Zhang Xuanyu, and Lu Renquang spewed out 3 mouthfuls of saliva in a row. Han Fei was embarrassed. "Hey, you darn girl, stop talking nonsense." Han Chani said, "I'm not talking nonsense. You're so close and all of you already have a family. Do you want Aunt Xiaobai to die alone? Second mother. Don't you think so?" Shimen Linglan was dumbfounded. Would the 3 of them be xenophobic? However, she still said, "This kind of thing is consensual. When you have someone you like, you'll understand. However, being alone is really lonely." Xia Xiaochan shrugged. "I don't mind anyway." Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei calmly and then at Han Chani. "I'm going to the Primordial star C in a few years. Come with me then. Huh? Why? Luo Xiaobai chuckled. I heard that you haven't been in the mood to cultivate. In the past 1,000 years. All day long, you take the hexagon starfish around. To travel and play, claiming that you're gaining experiences in the mortal world. I think it's time for you to get down to cultivation. Hearing this, the hexagon starfish, who was lying in the corner and enjoying the delicious roasted shrimp, rolled his 6 big eyes. We aren't slacking off. And I are really training in the mortal world. We're so miserable that sometimes we can't even eat our fill. Han Chani nodded. Yes. Han Fei said leisurely, yes. It's time to get down to cultivation. If I've guessed right, there is a peerless treasure, comparable to the demon purification pot hidden in the primordial star sea, called the world divine mirror. If I can get this thing, tisk. In the past 1,000 years, Han Fei had gone to find the world divine mirror. Unfortunately, when he went to that opening in the sea of stars, he found that the barrier had disappeared. The world divine mirror didn't even leave any fragments and disappeared without a trace. However, he firmly believed that the world divine mirror was in the primordial star sea. After a full meal, everyone began to discuss surrounding Lu Renquang. Because Lin Ji was also pregnant, they were discussing how to name their child. There was indeed something wrong with Luo Xiaobai's path of cultivation. It was only because they were here that she was a little emotional. At this moment, she had climbed up to the world tree and was sitting at the top of it, thinking about something. Xia Xiaochan pinched Han Fei. Go take a look. I'm really worried about Xiaobai's state. If it doesn't work out, I think Yi's suggestion is actually good. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Look at how worried you are. Don't we know Xiaobai's personality? Forget it. I've done some research over the years. I think it's still possible to awaken her emotions. On the top of the world tree, Han Fei sat next to Luo Xiaobai and asked, casually, what are you thinking about? Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. Nothing. I just feel that I'm a little similar to this tree. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. I advise you not to think about this nonsense. Do you still want to become a tree? Luo Xiaobai couldn't help but turn to look at Han Fei. How do you know? Han Fei said, other demon plants still have rich emotions. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Over the years, I've customized a scripture for you. If you read it every day, it might change your life and the future. Luo Xiaobai stroked the hair behind her ears, slightly pressed down her white skirt that was blown by the wind, and said indifferently, actually, I think it's quite good now. Han Fei said impatiently, good my ass. Let me tell you, if I'm not wrong, Li Dowie has also experienced the process you're experiencing now. As a result, he planted a tree and raised a little Kylan and a bird. Later, he must have met Chen Lingsu. How about it? Let me tell you their story? A moment later, the story ended. Han Fei didn't know if Luo Xiaobai listened to him or not. Luo Xiaobai stayed on the world tree alone after all. 10,000 years later, Han Fei had never stopped cultivating. Of course, it was his original body. But Han Song, Zhang Daqian, and Neza, after synchronizing with the information of his original body, his 3 clones grew extremely fast. This was inevitable. Han Fei's original body had comprehended too much. Once these insights fell on his 3 avatars, their cultivation speed would definitely soar. For example, the chaotic star sea was purified by Han Fei, leaving a massive amount of energy crystals in the vast sea of stars. And this helped Han Song grow and improve extremely quickly. 10,000 years ago, Han Song had already stepped into the realm of sea quelling God. Now, Han Song's loose life form was like a virus, spreading to the boundless sea of stars, buried in tens of thousands of star rivers. Now, Han Fei had only gathered these loose parts and combined them into one, allowing Han Song to easily break through to the Dominator realm. He chose to do this because he needed to. Although Han Song was absorbing the power of the entire chaotic star sea to grow, his growth was equivalent to helping the billions of star rivers in the chaotic star sea rebuild their ecology. As a sea-quelling god, Han Song spread his loose life forms too slowly, so he raised Han Song to the Dominator realm. In addition to Han Song, Zhang Daqian had also broken through to the sea quelling god realm. The higher the level of the Tao of Nirvana in the giant beast divine Tao, the harsher the requirements. In the chaotic star sea, Zhang Daqian couldn't find any enemies, so he went to the primordial star sea. But even in the primordial star sea, it was difficult for him to find enemies, so his strength growth stagnated to a certain extent. Even with the infinite insights of Han Fei's original body, his strength was still stuck at the peak of the sea-quelling god. He could barely fight a Dominator, but he couldn't cross that threshold. As for Neza, because he had taken the spirit of plants and trees in a row, his cultivation potential had gradually increased. Now, he had already stepped into the god-slaying level. It was worth mentioning that whether it was Han Song, Zhang Daqian, or Neza, his comprehension of the path of invincibility had directly increased to the 3rd level. This was inevitable. His original body had already comprehended the path of invincibility, so his avatar could directly grasp it. As for the 4th level, it was unlikely. This was because the requirements for the 4th level of the path of invincibility were too harsh. Not only did it require comprehension, but it also required the support of the entire sea of stars. In addition to the cultivation state of his avatars, Han Fei left 9 tails. The 9 death soul-splitting octopus, Little Gold, and the licking dog to Neza. As for Han Fei, he had been doing 3 things in the past 10,000 years. Firstly, it was to try to comprehend the true meaning of the Taoist realm. And secondly, it was to try to obliterate the 2 ominous severed arms. Unfortunately, he couldn't complete either of these things. He had completed the 3rd task, which was to accompany his wives and child on sightseeing and walking in the sea realm. At this moment, in the raging sea, Han Fei took Shiman Linglan, Han Chani, and Xia Shaochan back to the Yin-Yang world where the story began. The Yin-Yang world was still there, but it was no longer in the small world. When Han Fei left, he was not strong enough and still missed some people. After more than 20,000 years of development, many new people appeared here. However, most of them were still ordinary people. As for the history of the human race in the past, they could only find it from the murals and books left behind by the 36 mystic worlds. Yin-Yang World, Blue Sea Town, Heavenly Water Village. Han Fei had thought that after 20,000 years, this place had long been abandoned, the buildings had collapsed, and the old site was gone. But he never expected that when he came here, the small yard he used to live in was still there. However, the buildings showed signs of renovation. Although the buildings looked ordinary, the building materials were extraordinary. Besides, most of The heavenly water village was indeed desolate. Obviously, someone had come here and rebuilt this place. Han Fei already knew who this person was. Han Fei said, this is where I lived back then. At that time I was only a few years old. I lived in this palm-sized place. I remember that at that time I was only a level 2 fisher. I lived here with your uncle, Tango. Your uncle saved me a bowl of spirit-swallowing soup. Han Chani said impatiently, got it. You've told me 800 times. A while ago, I gave Uncle Tango and Aunt Mu Ling's youngest son, Tang Mufei, a bowl of true dragon soup. Xiao Xiaochan asked, didn't I tell you not to bully dragons? Han Chani snorted. I didn't do it on purpose. I took the big starfish out to play, but they coveted the big starfish's meat. How could I not do anything? Xiao Xiaochan said, then be gentle. They're your senior Uncle Azure dragons. Clansmen after all. Got it, got it. Han Chani pushed the door open, curiously, and entered. Then, she said with a strange expression, Dad, since it's an ancestral land, shouldn't we leave some inheritance here? Han Fei scanned around with his perception and thought to himself, no wonder Han Chani spoke so strangely. It turned out that there were signs of occasional residents in the house. Han Fei said in embarrassment, it's up to you. The sun and moon rotate, and the mountains and rivers change. The past is in the past. Perhaps I'm only obsessed with some things in my memories. Xiao Xiaochan said, okay, no one said anything about you. Go meet your old friend. Cough, cough. You can walk around. Shiman Linglan said, let's go greet teacher. Since we're already here, we should go meet him. Han Chani hurriedly said, okay. I haven't seen Master Divine's son yet. Another moment later. In the plantation in the heavenly water village. Some tombs still existed here, but the words on the tombstones were already blurred. Not far from the tombstones, there was a hut, and a figure was standing in front of it. Han Fei bowed 3 times in front of these tombs, and then said, casually, long time no see. I didn't expect that the little girl who was only a grand fishing master back then was already preparing to transcend the monarch tribulation. He Xiaoyu looked at Han Fei with a complicated expression. I made breakfast. Do you want to eat something? Then, as if thinking of something, He Xiaoyu smiled. You used to treat me. But now it's my turn to treat you. I live in your house occasionally because I miss my old friends. I know. On the ordinary wooden table, Han Fei was drinking shrimp, crab, and roe porridge. He Xiaoyu asked softly, are you going on a long trip? Han Fei put down the bowl. Why do you say that? He Xiaoyu took a sip of the porridge, her mouth a little swollen. After she swallowed it, she smiled. I heard that you have been traveling in the mortal world all these years, but this seems to be the first time you've revisited your old home. So I guess you're going to travel far. He Xiaoyu didn't know where Han Fei was going or where else was worth going for him, but she knew that Han Fei was leaving. She didn't know when they would meet again. Han Fei smiled casually. Yes. This time, I'm going to the end of the Sea of Stars, the other side of the Great Tao. There might be something waiting for me there. He Xiaoyu continued to eat the porridge. When the bowl was empty, she looked at Han Fei with a smile. If you can't beat them, run. This is what you taught me before. Han Fei smiled. It's still the truth. A moment later, after He Xiaoyu cleaned up the dishes, Han Fei stood in the plantation, holding a strawberry in his hand and biting it. He Xiaoyu stood behind him without speaking. Han Fei said, "By the way, I came back this time with the intention of rebuilding the raging sea. It's time to revive here." Buzz. As soon as Han Fei said so, the boundless mist in the raging sea dissipated. And in a mysterious and unknown place, the world origin soared at a visible speed, surging like a river. For a moment, the spiritual energy in this world soared several times. Countless spiritual plants and spiritual heritages grew rapidly like bamboo shoots after a rain, and the heavenly Tao laws were enhanced by new wills. After half an hour, all these changes slowly subsided. After doing all these, Han Fei turned around and said casually, "He Xiaoyu, I'm leaving. Goodbye." A long while after Han Fei left, He Xiaoyu smiled. "Goodbye." On the other side, in the new Grand Myriad Mountains, Han Chani had just met the Divine Sun. Then, she pouted and said, "Oh, look what Dad did. He's completely changed this world." Xiao Xiaochan said, "It's the ancestral land of the human race after all. It's time to revive here." On the other side, Shimin Linglan and the Water Immortal were reminiscing, and the Water Immortal said, "I know that his return this time shouldn't just be a revival of his old home. Linglan, I think you two should have a child as soon as possible, in case you regret it in the future." Shimin Linglan blushed. "Got it, teacher." Han Fei's family stayed in the Grand Myriad Mountains for a few months. Just as they were about to leave, Han Fei and Shimin Linglan sensed a fluctuation from the Time River at the same time. Shimin Linglan frowned slightly. "There are traces of battle in the Time River." Han Fei was also puzzled. "And the intensity of the battle is not weak. It has reached the sea-quelling god level. Let's go and take a look." Buzz. In the Time River, 2 dragon carp, one big and one small, were fighting someone. For a moment, in the Time River, the world kept fluctuating, and laws kept dissipating out of the Time River. In the divine light, 2 dragon carp were attacking a man crazily. As for that person, he was wearing a golden robe and looked a little helpless. He had no intention of fighting back and just let the two of them attack him. After a while, the man in the golden robe slowly said, "Sure, stop fooling around. Come home with me." The big dragon carp snorted coldly. "That's impossible. Don't think I don't know your evil intentions. You just want to take Ener back to take over your position and deal with your great ominous cause. You've been fighting for several eras, and you still want my daughter to fight for you? Impossible." The golden-robed man said helplessly, "The ominous has been wiped out. This time, I really just want to take you back." "Who are you fooling?" "Mom." He. Who is he?" The little dragon carp was also a little stunned at this moment. She stopped attacking and looked at the golden-robed man opposite her in a daze. The golden-robed man retracted his serious expression and said indifferently, "Child, I am your father." The little dragon carp was stunned for a moment. "Mom, I have a father?" The big dragon carp said, "Don't listen to his nonsense. You don't have a father. This person is a liar. Sure, as I said, the ominous is already gone. I have no reason to lie to you. Besides, the child can't never know who her father is, right?" The big dragon carp snorted. "I won't believe you. How can the ominous be destroyed so easily? How many eras has it been?" Which of you has succeeded? Don't think I don't know your plan. You just want to send Nyener back to the chaotic era to find a way to kill the ominous. That place is not easy to go. 2. If one doesn't carry great karma, he will definitely die there. The golden-robed man sighed helplessly. Okay. Even if you don't believe me, you should believe him, right? Han Fei, can you come out and help me? Explain? Han Fei? The big dragon carp was stunned. The little dragon carp's eyes glittered when she heard Han Fei's name. Brother Han Fei? Where is he? Swish. In the next moment, Han Fei and Shiman Linglan appeared in the Time River. Han Fei greeted her with a smile. Nyener, senior time. Ah. Brother Han Fei, Mom, it's Brother Han Fei. With a scream, she accelerated and rushed at Han Fei. The time dragon carp was also relieved, but when she looked at Han Fei, she couldn't see through his strength at all. Why was Han Fei here? Why was Han Fei qualified to be called by the Master of Time? Brother Han Fei, I miss you so much. I miss Sister Ener too. Han Fei smiled. Ener, and I miss you too. Nyener had already turned into a little girl and was hugging Han Fei's arm. Han Fei rubbed Nyener's head and said, Senior time, have you been well these years? The time dragon carp said, not bad. We stopped in various eras and came back. But you went east, so we didn't look for you again. But what's your relationship with him? Han Fei looked at the Master of Time with a complicated expression. I have nothing to do with him. I want to ask that too. Time, how did you know I was here? Hearing this, the time dragon carp's pupils were constricted slightly. Han Fei called him Time directly? How dare he? The Master of Time looked at Han Fei. I'm just luring you here at this time. This is my wife, Ling, and this is my daughter. I want you to help me. Explain that the ominous has been destroyed and the chaotic star seat is safe. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Good Lord, who the hell could have guessed this? The Master of Time was actually Little Time's father. Han Fei asked, You, the Master of Time, can't even have your wife and child. Trust you? The Master of Time said, It's a long story. After all, I arranged for someone to save Shiman Linglan back then. Don't you want to return this favor? Han Fei raised his eyebrows and looked at Shiman Linglan, only to see that Shiman Linglan was dumbfounded. Obviously, she didn't know this either. However, after Shiman Linglan comprehended the Tao of Hope, she was indeed saved by a strong master of the Time Temple passing by. It was probably not a coincidence. It could only be said that she had always been in others' plans. Han Fei was a little speechless, but he still said to the time dragon carp, Senior, the ominous has indeed been annihilated. The time dragon carp was a little unconvinced. Who did it? Who has this ability? The death god or void? Han Fei had examined the time dragon carp with the demon purification pot before. But at that time, the time dragon carp was only in the sky opening realm. Now it seemed that what he saw back then was probably just a clone of the time dragon carp. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. I did it. The time dragon carp? Are you kidding me? You killed them? You. The time dragon carp looked Han Fei up and down, but she couldn't understand him. This meant that Han Fei was at least above the sea-quelling god realm, which was the dominator realm. However, it had only been 20,000 years. It was unbelievable for that boy who was only a law enforcer back then to become a sea-quelling god, let alone a Dominator. At this moment, the time dragon carp noticed Shimin Linglan beside Han Fei and asked in a suppressed tone, "Is this the little girl from back then?" Shimin Linglan had never seen the time dragon carp, but the time dragon carp had seen her before. The time dragon carp could tell at a glance that Shimin Linglan's realm was comparable to hers, or even stronger. Shimin Linglan greets Senior. The time dragon carp asked with a complicated expression, "What happened in the past 20,000 years?" Han Fei shrugged slightly. "Senior, you can go to the sea realm on your own. The current chaotic star sea is different. As for the entanglement between you and the Master of Time, I won't get involved and don't want to ask. However, I can guarantee that he won't force Nyener to do anything outrageous. After all, Nyener is my sister. As long as you don't want to, the Time Temple can't stop me." As he spoke, Han Fei looked at the Master of Time warningly. As for the Master of Time, he pretended not to see it. The time dragon carp was skeptical. Although she more or less felt that Han Fei's words were a little ridiculous, even Shimin Linglan was already so strong. It could be seen that too many things had happened in the past 20,000 years. The time dragon carp was still a little vigilant. "In that case, I'll take Nyener to the sea realm first. Han Fei, can you help me stop him?" Han Fei smiled. "Okay." Seeing that her mother was about to leave again, Nyener hurriedly said, "Brother Han Fei, where can I find you?" Han Fei laughed and said, "The free city of the sea divine realm in the sea realm." After the time dragon carp left with Nyener, the Master of Time said indifferently, "She is a spirit in time. She is unique." Han Fei stopped him. "I'm not interested in listening to stories." "Anything else?" The Master of Time was speechless. He couldn't understand how this petty-minded Han Fei could become an immortal. He said, "Are you going to the path of no return?" Han Fei nodded. "Someone has to explore the unknown. Generations of strong masters have embarked on that path, including me. Perhaps you are no exception." The Master of Time nodded slightly. "Good luck." Han Fei knew that the chaotic star sea was far from absolutely safe. If what the ominous said was true and they still had an original body, it would definitely be extremely difficult to deal with. He shouldn't become complacent and stuck in his ways. At this point, anyone could stop, except him, Han Fei. He was the hope of too many people. After the Master of Time left, Shimin Linglan held Han Fei's hand and said, "You know, I will definitely go." "I know." Sea Realm. Han Fei and the others only stayed in the Grand Myriad Mountains for a year before returning to the Sea Realm. This time, Han Fei took his family to cultivate in seclusion for 1,000 years. On a certain evening 1,000 years later, the free city was still noisy. Suddenly, from the location of the Thug Academy, a shocking light soared to the sky. In the sky, there were a total of 24 golden pages. Great Dao runes surrounded the pages, and Dao sounds rang. The light of law spread in the sea realm, radiating to the 5 divine realms. Countless people looked up, and all the strong masters of the sea realm looked. At this place, a divine voice resounded in the sea realm. "I'm Han Fei, the current human emperor. May I occupy you a little time? In the 12,001st year of the origin era, I consumed a supreme nature treasure to forge 24 pages of the human emperor's book. It records in detail everything I've learned, comprehended, felt, and obtained in my life. Whoever gathers the 24 pages of the human emperor's book can get an unexpected surprise. Now, I've scattered the pages of this book all over the world. I hope those who are fated can obtain them. Buzz. As soon as Han Fei said so, the 24 pages of the human emperor's book scattered in all directions at the same time. Han Fei's words shocked the world, and countless people were shocked. Heavens! This book actually contains all the knowledge of the human emperor. Doesn't this mean that if anyone can obtain this book, they have a chance to achieve what the human emperor has achieved today? Human emperor refined a supreme nature treasure into a book. Even if one doesn't learn the technique on it, just the page itself is a peerless treasure. Did the human emperor cast this book to select disciples? Why is it so troublesome for Master Human Emperor to choose a disciple? I wonder who will be so lucky. Some superpowers had already begun to take action. The Crown Prince of the Divine Capital said, the intelligence agency of the Divine Capital Dynasty immediately operate at full strength. I don't care what method you use. Once the human emperor's book appears, I have to know it immediately. In the Phoenix divine race, Feng Xingliu was enjoying the massage of his maidservant while holding a big pipe in his mouth. He raised his head and sighed. Brother, shouldn't we digest such a good thing internally first? As soon as Feng Xingliu said so, he discovered that a golden jade token had appeared on his fruit plate at some point. Immediately, Feng Xingliu stood up and signaled the maidservant to retreat. Then, he picked up the golden token with trembling hands and couldn't help swallowing. Feng Xingliu quickly glanced around and then quietly put away the golden token, with a faint smile on his lips. You're really my good brother. Sound-ending mountain. Boom, boom, boom. In the past 20,000 years, the rise of Jiuying Ling was unstoppable. She was already proficient in music, and with the help of the creation void spiritual drum, she had made rapid progress. Now, Jiuying Ling's strength had far exceeded that of a peak-level extreme Dao Great Monarch, but she still had no intention of making a breakthrough. She had to wait for a breakthrough. But even so, she was almost invincible in the current sound-ending mountain. This was because except for the master of the sound-ending mountain, no one could be stronger than Jiuying Ling. Suddenly, a golden jade token appeared on the mountain where Jiuying Ling was cultivating. The moment the jade token appeared, the creation void spirit drum immediately appeared and said in surprise, I couldn't feel the arrival of this jade token at all. What a vicious guy. He actually refined the hidden divine seal. He's simply a lunatic. However, he still knows to give you a share. He has some conscience. Jiuying Ling said lightly, let me take a look. In a secret realm in the sea realm, a giant turtle was transforming into a human. His appearance was a little neutral. Beside him, a demon-vanquishing tree followed. Swish. A golden jade token appeared out of nowhere. Heh, brat, I thought you had forgotten me. You gave me this human emperor's book yourself. I didn't leverage any connections. On the infinite desolate sea, South Monarch's crossing was crossing. South Monarch was looking up at the starry sky from the top of her ship when a golden token appeared in front of her. Is this the human emperor's book? Immediately afterward, she heard Han Fei's voice. Han Fei never owes anyone a favor. The favor he owes is already returned. The corners of South Monarch's mouth twitched slightly, and in the end, she sighed slightly. I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death. That being said, South Monarch immediately put away the human emperor's book. and disappeared from the crossing with a swish. Of course, Han Fei didn't give all the human emperor's book to his acquaintances. There were only a few. At this moment, the human emperor's book had dispersed, and Han Fei's voice sounded again. In addition, I have another thing. The myriad races in the infinite ocean have suffered from the ominous invasion. From the ancient chaotic era to the doomsday era, countless people have died or been injured. Countless races have disappeared in the long river of history. Now, although the ominous has been suppressed by me, the root of the ominous hasn't been eliminated. The creatures of the myriad races can't slack off. I, Han Fei, have been fighting all my life, and now is no exception. I will embark on a journey that I don't know when I will return. This road is long, far, and full of the unknown. Therefore, from today on, I will step down as human emperor. Although I have left, a new human emperor will eventually appear. The human race is indestructible. Human emperor. For a moment, countless people in the free city looked up at the sky. Countless people burst into tears. Someone shouted, "Master Human Emperor, don't leave us behind." "Shut up." An old man shouted sternly, "The current human emperor is no longer just the human emperor of our human race. To put it bluntly, he is also the emperor of all races. We can't be so selfish. The human race, and even all races, shouldn't continue to be a burden to the human emperor." Someone heaved a long sigh. Human emperor has suffered too much and is too tired. I don't know when he will return from his life of fighting. Someone swore, "The human emperor is still fighting without stopping. How dare we slack off? I dare not say that we can catch up with the human emperor in this life. I just hope that when the human emperor needs me, I am still here and can still fight." Someone shouted, "Those of the human race should kneel." That day, no one made a sound on the billions of long streets of the free city. The human race knelt all over and respectfully sent the human emperor off. In the future, history called this day Human Emperor's Day. No one knew that on Human Emperor's Day, Shiman Linglan, drawing on the hope and expectations of all living beings, had finally reached the peak of the Dominator realm. On this day, Han Fei was saying goodbye to his parents, Xia Xiaochan and Han Chani, and Zhang Xuanyu, Lu Renquang, and Luo Xiaobai. Even the hexagon starfish was sobbing, and Han Chani couldn't stop crying. Xia Xiaochan looked at Han Fei deeply. "If you don't return, I will go to you one day." Han Fei had already clarified his Tao heart. He had to go on this trip no matter what. Everything was not over yet. He sensed that the summoning from the path of no return was very strong. Similarly, he felt a pressure from the unknown. It was a battle of fate that he had to accept. Han Fei stroked Xia Xiaochan's cheek. "This departure is for the sake of return. You know that I want to stay more than anyone else, but I can't stay." Xia Xiaochan said, "I know, but this day came too fast." Han Fei said, "Wait for me. As long as the heavenly Taoite doesn't return, I won't die." "Okay." Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang each punched Han Fei's shoulder. Zhang Xuanyu said, "I don't know if it's because I'm old, but I really miss my childhood, when I wanted to become stronger. There was no pressure above my head at all. The sea was so big that we could play around. In the end, the old days are gone. Good brother, we won't stop. When you need me, remember to call me." Han Fei smiled. "Okay, sure." Lu Renquang took out a small world with trembling hands. Fei, there are 800 ultra-quality dishes here that I've painstakingly studied. I've made a lot of them. If you're tired on the way, stop to rest. You can't just go hungry. Right? Among the 5 of them, Lu Renquang had the richest emotions, and now his eyes were full of tears. Han Fei took the small world and patted Lu Renquang's shoulder heavily. Sure. Enough, you know me. I could have been the #1 divine chef in the world, but unfortunately, there were too many things to do, and I forgot my skills. Now, the title of the #1 divine chef in the world still falls on you. Ha ha ha. After saying goodbye to Lu Renquang, Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai. Remember to read the scripture I made for you every day. Luo Xiaobai pouted, showing a rare feminine look, even if it was only for a moment. She said, I'll wait for you to return in the world tree. When you return, you must have reached the Dallas level. Then perhaps you can create a better scripture for me. Of course, if it takes too long, I will embark on the path of no return too. In fact, Han Fei always felt that Luo Xiaobai was the loneliest one. Such a person was either strong or crazy. He even felt that with Luo Xiaobai's temperament, once she stepped into the dominator realm, she might become the fastest to advance on the path of dominance. Even the immortal level couldn't stop her. After all, reason and intelligence gave Luo Xiaobai extremely high comprehension ability. When Han Fei looked at old Han, his mother, and Iner, he chuckled. Stop traveling around, okay? You've been busy from the primordial era to now. Now, you must have been tired. Why don't you help me take care of Yi? Don't let Iner be too tired. She doesn't need to be so strong. Han Guangqiu sighed slightly. Son, have a safe trip. Jiang Linxian let her tears flow, and Iner couldn't help but hug Han Fei. Brother. Han Fei stroked Iner's long hair and said, the rise of the 2 worlds will definitely give birth to countless talents. Live your life well. Jiang Linxian said, Fei, your father and I love you. Han Fei smiled. I know. In the end, Han Fei came to Han Chani. Even the hexagon starfish lying on her head was sobbing. I won't listen, I won't listen, I won't listen. Han Fei reached out to wipe the tears on her cheeks. Believe Dad will return. Boo-hoo. When? Han Fei smiled. Maybe soon. Big liar, you always speak you'll return soon, but it's always a long time. Han Fei didn't say anything else, but glared at the hexagon starfish. Big starfish, remember to take Yi to eat and play more in the future. Don't just enjoy yourself every day. Otherwise, when I come back, I'll skin you alive. The hexagon starfish sobbed and covered his eyes. You're about to leave, but you're still so fierce. Starfish has actually been working very hard all the time. Humph. Ignoring the hexagon starfish, Han Fei said solemnly, Dad, Mom, Iner, girl. You, Quang, Xiaobai. I'm leaving. Han Fei didn't dare to stay any longer. He took Shiman Linglan and disappeared. The reason why Han Fei wanted to take Shiman Linglan with him was that her path was extremely special and she had a certain dependency on him. If he didn't take her with him, Shiman Linglan would definitely embark on the path of no return. At that time, her life might be in danger. How could he sit by and watch? Besides, Shimin Linglan was different from Xia Xiaochan. Xia Xiaochan had Zhang Xuanyu, Lu Renquang, Luo Xiaobai, and the Thug Academy, but Shimin Linglan only had Han Fei. Therefore, he would rather take Shimin Linglan with him than leave her alone in the chaotic Star Sea. Before leaving, Han Fei no longer let Han Song and Zhang Daqian continue to cultivate here. Buzz. At that moment, in the tens of thousands of star rivers, countless loose life forms were gathering. Han Fei had always felt that the loose life forms' growth way was unbelievable. Once they were supplied with enough resources, their growth speed could be described as terrifying. In just a few years, tens of thousands of loose bodies comparable to the sea quelling god began to gather. Another 3 days passed. When these loose life forms at the sea quelling god level gathered and fused into one, in the chaotic Star Sea, a sky-penetrating divine bamboo revealed its original body, spanning several star rivers. At this moment, Han Fei's second peak-level dominator avatar was formed. To embark on the path of no return, all three would eventually be one. Han Fei couldn't let go of Han Song and Zhang Daqian. At the same time, Han Fei exiled the humans on his origin star to an unknown star river and completely refined his origin star. After he created the world, he didn't deliberately observe this new human race that was growing stronger and stronger. However, all their senses had been branded in his mind. He had a certain understanding of creation. When this path reached the end, it would still evolve into two paths. One was the Tao of all living beings. This was the easiest path of creation. The other was to comprehend the Taoless realm, but it was just to comprehend it. On the path of no return, in front of the dam, when Han Fei and Shimin Linglan arrived, they found that the Death God, Senior Sister Shenlu, Senior Brother Azure Dragon, Fifth Senior Brother, Senior Sister Green Lotus, Senior Sister Red Lotus, Senior Sister Dark Shadow, Lei Heng, Sixth God, and Feng Yu were all here. Lei Heng said, "Little junior brother, we're here to see you off." Feng Yu said, "Brat, even if you become a dominator, you're still my little junior brother. Why don't you inform me?" Shenlu asked, "Little junior brother, I thought you would stay in the chaotic Star Sea for an era. Why are you so fast?" Han Fei said, "Senior Sister Shenlu, I have a premonition of something and feel some summoning. Therefore, I have to embark on a journey." "Alas," Shenlu said indifferently, "the Void Temple has always respected everyone's choice. We all have our own paths, and we may all embark on this path. Little junior brother, you go first. When someone from the sea realm takes over, I will embark on the journey too." At this moment, Han Fei looked at the Death God. Now, the Death God was not guarding the immortal temple. In the ominous battle, 90% of the 10 directions Purgatory was empty, and now the Death God was guarding the path of no return. Eldest Senior Brother had once sat here and waited for several eras. Occasionally, great Tao spiritual bodies would appear out of nowhere. The reason was unknown, so theoretically, someone needed to guard this place. However, the real reason why they had been guarding here was still to wait for some people to return, for someone to rise in the chaotic Star Sea, and for him to step onto the path of no return. In front of Han Fei, a green jade stone bridge appeared. Han Fei said, "Senior Death God, Purgatory and Reincarnation should be one. I've always known that the path of reincarnation still has flaws. Now that I've left, I can't take the path of reincarnation away. Please accept it. Senior." The Death God sighed. Okay, but I have a feeling that I will embark on this path too soon. Han Fei's heart stirred as he seemed to understand something. Perhaps the Death God also had an understanding of the realm above the Dominator realm. Han Fei smiled and said, "The path of reincarnation belongs to the chaotic Star Sea. It's up to you how to deal with it." In the end, Han Fei took out 2 wine gourds and threw a pot to 5th Senior Brother. "In the long history, countless gods have died, and I have turbid wine for you. Senior brothers and senior sisters, this wine contains some of my insights. This is the only thing I can leave behind. Senior brothers and senior sisters, I'm leaving. Little junior brother, take care. The path of no return." When Han Fei stepped in with Shiman Linglan and his 2 avatars, it was calm at first. Then, the great Tao wave rose again, and countless great Tao spiritual bodies appeared. Shiman Linglan's expression changed slightly. "These are all at the sea quelling god level?" Han Fei said, "And he's a sea-quelling god who knows the Tao of origin." Shiman Linglan attacked several times, shocked. These sea-quelling gods were so strong. Was this the so-called control of the Tao of origin? Shiman Linglan believed that if she continued on this path of no return, it wouldn't be long before she was drowned in this great Tao wave and finally became a corpse here. Shiman Linglan said, "I am a burden to you." Han Fei took Shiman Linglan's hand with a smile and said, "You are never a burden to me. Besides, if this is all there is to this path of no return, it can't stop me." A faint blush appeared on Shiman Linglan's face. "By the way, why don't you fuse these 2 avatars? It's not the time yet. There's an island ahead. We need to stay on that island for a while." Although he was going to embark on the path of no return, Han Fei was not unprepared. He knew how to step onto the path of immortal. Han Song had accumulated a massive amount of energy over 10,000 years. As long as he used the great Tao tide here to constantly cleanse himself with the special characteristics of loose living beings, under his guidance, it was completely possible for him to step into the immortal level. 3,000 years later, on the dragon-subduing island, although Han Fei had the strength of the immortal level and could accelerate time, it still took Han Song nearly 10 million years to make Han Song finally step onto the immortal level from the peak of the Dominator realm. During this period of time, Han Song almost collapsed and died here. In the past millions of years, Shiman Linglan had observed the path of many predecessors, coupled with the baptism of the origin Tao and her own cultivation, and her strength had finally grown to 21 pieces of Star River source power. Han Fei knew that Shiman Linglan had tried her best. She had already shown the terrifying cultivation speed of the Tao of Hope. This speed was faster than Zhang Daqian. Zhang Daqian walked the giant beast divine Tao. Although he could grow without nirvana, even in a place like the dragon-subduing island, he had only stepped into the Dominator realm in millions of years and controlled 6 pieces of Star Rivers. If he entered the path of no return alone, he might be killed in a few waves. Don't think that this kind of breakthrough was very desirable. In fact, if it were anyone else, such as anyone from the Void Temple, their strength would soar after staying on the dragon-subduing island for thousands of years. This was because of this environment. As long as they could survive on this island, their strength would inevitably grow. However, on the path of no return, whether one's strength grew or not was actually meaningless to those who couldn't return to the chaotic Star Sea. This was because as long as they didn't reach the peak of the Dominator realm, once they left the island, they would most likely die. On this day, Han Song had broken through to the immortal level. Han Fei knew that this might be his last seclusion on the path of no return. Han Fei said, "Ling Lan, it's time to go." Shiman Ling Lan smiled. "Okay. With you around, I can set off at any time and go anywhere." This time, as Han Fei expected, after walking forward from the dragon-subduing island, it didn't take long for the great Tao spiritual bodies he encountered to reach the Dominator level. At this level, Zhang Daqian could no longer participate in the battle, and Shiman Linglan could only barely escape. Therefore, the two could only be protected by Han Fei and Han Song. This journey was endless. Along the way, Han Fei saw the corpses of more than one Dominator. On the way back, he even met some Dominators who entered with Song Tian in the chaotic era. These people had died here. Although their bodies were still there, their consciousness had long been obliterated and their wills had been pierced through. Perhaps they still had a wisp of will in this great Tao tide, but this path was long. No one knew where the wisp of will was, if it was sleeping, or if it had completely dissipated. Therefore, even if he brought the corpses of these people back to the chaotic Star Sea, they couldn't be resurrected. However, as Han Fei continued to move forward, he found that there seemed to be too many Dominator creatures buried on the path of no return. Logically speaking, in the history of the birth of the chaotic Star Sea, there might not have been so many Dominator creatures in total. However, along the way, he saw more than 10,000 corpses. In the end, there were even more than 100,000. Could it be that the chaotic Star Sea had once been destroyed? Before Hong Jun turned the heavenly Tao, the chaotic Star Sea had appeared, but for unknown reasons, it was destroyed and turned into chaos again. Otherwise, how could he explain the countless Dominator-level powerhouses along the way? Unfortunately, Han Fei couldn't find out the truth. He couldn't stay here and pry into history. On the path of no return, the colorful light was still flashing in the distant sky. True phoenixes and dragon shadows occasionally appeared, but no matter how Han Fei hurried, he couldn't touch the colorful light. They seemed to be infinitely far away from him. In the past decades, Han Fei had never stopped walking, avoiding the pursuit of countless great Tao spiritual bodies. Finally, he saw an island, another island after the dragon-subduing island. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. Under the pursuit of the Dominator-level great Tao spiritual body, very few people could travel for decades on the path of no return. Only peak-level Dominators might have this possibility, but if they were careless and were held back, they would be endlessly entangled. Only death awaited them. Therefore, seeing the second island gave Han Fei hope. Just like the last time they went to Dragon-subduing Island, this time, before Han Fei and Shiman Linglan stepped into the island, they saw figures appear on the island. A black flower bloomed in the sky, and a woman stood in the middle of the flower, speaking to Han Fei. Unfortunately, for some reason, Han Fei couldn't hear him. A strange creature that was half human and half beast branded runes in the void. Han Fei instantly disassembled the meaning, only to see that the runes were "Be careful." Han Fei's heart stirred. In the next moment, a vortex suddenly appeared in front of the island, and a huge octopus formed by the great Tao stood in front of Han Fei. Immortal? Han Fei couldn't help being shocked. This was really a little unbelievable. Along the way, not even a peak-level dominator-level Great Tao spiritual body had appeared, but at this moment, an immortal-level Great Tao spiritual body had appeared. Han Fei couldn't help but think of the 3 dominator-level Great Tao spiritual bodies he encountered the moment he boarded the dragon-subduing island. Was this the trial he had to experience before landing on the island? Linglan, follow Han Song. With that, Han Fei took the lead to attack. The octopus in the immortal level slapped the Great Tao Sea, and the waves rolled back in the sky, forming a tsunami. It was vast, tall, and silent. The surrounding waves had stopped and subsided. In the tsunami, every wave of water was extremely dazzling, as if it had turned into a sky full of gods and demons. Han Fei roared, and a blood-colored sea appeared behind him. It was condensed from qi and blood, which was also blood-colored. Under Han Fei's feet, the Great Tao tide turned into Great Tao runes that filled the sky, condensing into dense sword shadows in the void. The sword shadows burned and burst out, and infinite power surged. Sword chi pierced through the sky and slashed at the tsunami. Bam! 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 Dazzling halos exploded here one after another. In the terrifying collision, all kinds of dazzling runes cracked and shattered, piercing through the tsunami. On the island, people's vision was blocked by the tsunami. Someone said solemnly, "I didn't expect 4 people to come at once this time. I wonder if anyone can pass through this tsunami." Someone shook his head slightly. "I saw 2 of them being protected. If the 2 peak-level dominators don't give up on those 2, the 4 of them will probably be wiped out. Alas. It's not easy for someone to come, but they're going to die in front of us. How unfair is the Great Tao." Swish. 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 Suddenly, someone said, "Look, a sword chi broke through the tsunami and opened a channel. Good Lord, some of the people who came are not weak. If they try their best, it seems that someone can reach the island." Bang! In the next moment, everyone saw that the tsunami exploded, riddled with holes. Han Song crossed this place and was about to land on the island. As for the big octopus, it didn't seem to want to see anyone take people to the island in front of it. A tentacle bloomed with destructive power, piercing through infinite sword chi, shattering the boundless Great Tao, and spreading chi and blood, trying to stop Han Song. At this moment, Han Fei stood in front of the tentacle and waved his fist. The brilliance illuminated the void, and the surrounding order shattered. At this moment, he heard someone on the island exclaim, "You can't resist the power of the immortal level by force. Stop." Bang! Rumble! Han Fei shook the tentacles head-on and fought with his strength. The wind howled, the sky was torn apart, and the blood was stained by the waves. Then it shattered, blooming with billions of rays of light and falling like rain. Everyone saw that the immortal level octopus was repelled and lost a tentacle. As for Han Fei, he stood on the Great Tao tide, looking ferocious. His body emitted dazzling brilliance as he looked at the big octopus deeply. What? He can resist an immortal head-on? Is he still a peak-level dominator? No, his strength is so strong. He can repel an immortal, and his Great Tao won't collapse. This is an immortal. He's an immortal. Han Fei didn't fight the big octopus. If the big octopus was really murderous, the creatures on the island couldn't be so safe. Therefore, Han Fei was sure that this was just a test. Sure enough, as soon as Han Fei stepped onto the island, more than a dozen People immediately gathered around. However, before these people could speak, Han Fei felt a strong summoning from the great Tao tide in front of this island. He seemed to be able to feel that someone was waiting for him. At this moment, someone exclaimed, interrupting Han Fei's thoughts. He said, "A new dominator dares to step into the return ruins? If I'm not wrong, this person only has more than 20 pieces of star rivers. What's the use of him coming here?" When Han Fei landed on the island, someone couldn't help but ask, "Fellow Taoist, why did you bring 2 ordinary dominators over?" The strange creature that reminded Han Fei said, "Fellow Taoist, how should I address you? Have you stepped into the immortal level?" Han Fei glanced around and found that the people here were all peak level dominators. There were 13 people standing in front of him who were still alive. As Han Fei scanned around with his perception, he found that there were still people sleeping here. Some of them had broken bodies, but they were still alive. However, Han Fei didn't see eldest senior brother, Li Daoi, or Song Tian, let alone the first supreme here. Therefore, he might not have arrived at the right spot yet. In addition, Han Fei also saw hundreds of thousands of inheritance grottos. This meant that in ancient times, talented cultivators had arrived here one after another and left their inheritances here. Han Fei said casually, "I'm Han Fei. You are my wife, Shiman Linglan. Nice to meet you." "What? You took your family with you on this path?" "Fellow Taoist Han Fei. You're so bold." The black flower that bloomed in midair turned into a woman in black and looked at Han Fei up and down. Immortal-level powerhouses can indeed be willful. "Then who are you?" Han Fei said, "These 2 are both my avatars." What? Even his avatars are so strong? Everyone immediately realized that Han Fei was a super powerhouse himself, so he definitely didn't bring his avatars here to play. His avatars didn't fuse with his original body, so his original body was probably still waiting for his avatars to grow up in order to fuse with him to reach a stronger state. It seemed that Han Fei was trying to break through the immortal level. Hearing this, the woman in black couldn't help but say, "I didn't expect 2 tough guys to come at once." Han Fei was puzzled. "2? The woman in black said, 20,000 years before you, a man named Void came here, but he only stayed for a day before he killed his way into the return ruins." Han Fei's eyes glittered. He keenly sensed 2 problems from the woman's words. These people definitely didn't enter the path of no return after the chaotic era in the chaotic star sea. Otherwise, it was impossible for them not to know eldest senior brother. Secondly, it wasn't that he hadn't arrived at the right spot, but that he had arrived at a battlefield. As for why he was fighting, he didn't know. Han Fei asked, "Are you from the chaotic star sea?" "Huh?" Someone raised his eyebrows. "You're from the same place as Void." Han Fei said, "That's my senior brother." Someone exclaimed, 2 dominators in one sect. It seems that the chaotic star sea is a very powerful place. The woman in black said, "I'm from the heaven spirit world. In your words, it should be called the heaven spirit star sea." The strange man said, "I come from the origin energy world, which can also be called the origin energy star sea." Someone said, "I'm from the mystic yellow ancient river. I can also become the mystic yellow star sea." The strange man said, "As for the known sea of stars, there are mystic yellow, heaven spirit, origin energy, and chaotic star seas. We only know of these 4 places. Upon hearing this, Han Fei had an epiphany. However, as far as he knew, there was also the primordial star sea. In this case, there were already 5 seas of stars. However, according to the ominous, there were probably at least 2 seas of stars that hadn't appeared. He didn't know what they were. Of course, he didn't care too much about this now. The place where eldest, senior brother, and the others went in the return ruins was what he should care about. They must fight for some reasons. The woman in black said, everyone embarked on this path of no return because their path was exhausted, but they were all stopped outside the return ruins. Over the countless years, too many people died in battle. Many of their former companions were buried in the return ruins. Han Fei asked, then where are the return ruins? The strange man said, I don't know. We don't dare to set foot in it. Only by breaking through to the immortal level, can we be qualified to step into the return ruins. Therefore, on this return ruins island, we are all waiting for a breakthrough. Someone said, but even if you are immortal, once you enter the return ruins, you can never return. Han Fei was shocked. Because we'll die there? The woman in black replied, it's hard to say. Someone may have died, but there must still be people fighting. On the return ruins island, peerless power often escapes from the return ruins. Han Fei couldn't help but look back, only to hear the woman in black say, no. One below the immortal level can go back. You should have seen it before you came. Before landing on the island, there is an immortal level great Tao spiritual body waiting. Even if someone can rush out, he will be hunted by the immortal level great Tao spiritual body unless someone becomes an immortal and escorts him all the way. But those who really become immortal won't return but advance. Han Fei looked at Shiman Linglan, who was a little pale at this moment. From the conversation with these people, the return ruins was not a place Shiman Linglan could step into at all. If she went there, she would definitely die. Therefore, Shiman Linglan knew that she couldn't follow Han Fei the rest of the way. Han Fei slowly said, Linglan, if you're destined to be unable to walk forward, I can send you back. Wait for me. I will definitely return. However, Shiman Linglan shook her head slightly. You know, I don't feel a sense of belonging in the chaotic star sea. My only place of belonging is by your side. So, don't worry. No matter how long it takes, I will wait. Someone said, we all came from this road, so no one knows if this road can return to the place we came from. Someone seemed to be reminding him, how can I dare to have anything to worry about on the path of cultivation? But fellow Taoist Han Fei has even reached the immortal level. It's really beyond my understanding. In fact, the others here had the same feeling. They had only seen Han Fei before. This was because in their opinion, once they had something to worry about, at certain moments, if they had any distracting thoughts, it would be dangerous. Bang! At this moment, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the distant sky. There. Rays of light soared to the sky, and smoke and clouds filled the air. In the vast mist, there seemed to be an ancient voice ringing, indistinct. It was also at this moment that Han Fei felt as if his heart had been hit hard. The call was getting stronger and stronger. Besides, he felt an urgency. As for the others, they were very natural, but they were attracted by the colorful light and didn't seem to feel anything. Han Fei looked into the distance, but he couldn't see past the misty mist at all. He couldn't see the battle in the distance, let alone the so-called return ruins. Someone said, recently, energy riots of this level have become more and more frequent. The strange man said, although I don't know what happened, a place that can make an immortal fight is definitely not a good place. Hanfei couldn't help but wonder if it was the real ominous. Perhaps the other party was here for the indelible arm? Hanfei suddenly said, fellow Taoists, did you come to the return ruins just because there is no road ahead of you? I wonder if you know the ominous? The ominous? Of course. The reason why we entered the path of no return is not only because of the end of the road, but also because of the ominous. The ominous existence made us realize that there is a higher level at the peak of the Dominator realm. The woman in black said firmly. The strange man also said, in our origin energy world, we have been fighting the ominous without stopping. Because of the ominous existence, everyone cultivates with all their strength. Hanfei's heart trembled. It seemed that not only the chaotic star sea and the primordial star sea, but in the world of these people, they were also fighting against the ominous. However, this made him wonder why all the final enemies in the Sea of Stars were ominous. And in the end, they all embarked on the path of no return. Because of the ominous. Hanfei asked again, have you subdued the ominous? Which part of the severed limb did you get? At this moment, everyone looked at Hanfei. Broken limbs? What broken limbs? Hanfei said, isn't the source of the ominous in your respective Sea of Stars a limb of a corpse? That corpse flows with blood, which is the ominous matter. Anyone contaminated by it will be corroded by the ominous. Someone said, I see. Fellow Taoist, do you mean that a severed limb formed the ominous of our world? A severed limb, damn it. The strange man said, I don't know. When I left, I only took an ominous into the path of no return. In the great Tao tide, the ominous will be directly disassembled. I thought I had killed an ominous. According to fellow Taoist Han, I actually only took away a little of the limb blood? Hanfei nodded. Seeing that they seemed to be thinking, he could understand. When he saw the limbs, it was when he entered the path of return. Only after he entered the path of return, broke through to the immortal level, and returned to the chaotic star sea, did he understand the nature of the ominous. Therefore, it was understandable that these people didn't know the nature of the ominous. The woman in black asked, so, fellow Taoist Han subdued the ominous and obtained a severed limb? Everyone couldn't help but look at Hanfei. This showed Hanfei's strength. They didn't even know the existence of severed limbs, but he had already subdued them. Hanfei nodded slightly. It's sealed, but it can't be erased. The strange man asked, even the great Tao tide can't obliterate it? Hanfei shook his head. He had already tried, but this severed limb was not afraid of the great Tao tide at all, which meant that the other party's level was too high. Just the great Tao couldn't annihilate him at all. Hanfei paused and said, if my guess is correct, the owner of this limb should have surpassed the immortal level. No one was surprised. Even Hanfei, an immortal, couldn't destroy his broken limbs. It was not hard to imagine how strong the other party was. Hanfei wanted to ask these strong masters if there was a way to obliterate the broken limbs, but unfortunately, they didn't even know the broken limbs. What a waste of his explanation. At this moment, Hanfei looked at the inheritance caves and said, are these all peak-level Dominator-level inheritance caves? Someone said, not only that, but there are also inheritance caves for immortal-level powerhouses here. In history, there are many powerhouses on the Return Ruins Island who have broken through to the immortal level. Most of them comprehended the immortal level by reference and borrowing from the various inheritances. We haven't comprehended the essence of it, so we can't break through. Hanfei couldn't help but feel a little curious. If he could borrow the inheritance of the strongest to the immortal level and comprehend it, he might be able to comprehend the true meaning of the Dallas. After that, for 3 consecutive years, Hanfei and Shimin Linglan sat cross-legged in front of the inheritance caves. Hundreds of thousands of inheritance caves were too shocking. In the past 3 years, Hanfei had read through one inheritance after another and roughly understood some cultivation methods of the origin energy. Star C, the Heaven Spirit Star C, and the Mystic Yellow World. Unfortunately, all paths led to the same destination. In the end, most inheritances were actually very similar. It was difficult to make a breakthrough on this foundation. And here, there were more than 1,000 strong masters who had left behind immortal inheritances. And this time, most of them had comprehended the Taoist realm before they advanced to the realm with Tao. Therefore, these inheritances were not much different from his breakthrough. But these people had raised countless opinions about the Taoist realm. Some people felt that the body was a shackle, and the existence of the body was the existence of the Tao. Therefore, abandoning the body, leaving behind the soul and will, and giving birth to a brand new power was a way to make a breakthrough. Some people felt that when the body evolved to its limit, there should be another power above the Tao and law, which was the will that people had always ignored. Some people felt that the so-called Taoist was just an existence that no longer cared about anything. It was a breakthrough in the state of mind and had nothing to do with the great Tao itself. Everyone had different opinions, but no one succeeded. If they really succeeded, the return ruins might change. There was also a saying that was a little similar to his thoughts. That was, some people felt that the Taoist could definitely be broken, which was to forcibly break the Taoist. That person felt that when the quantity changed to a certain extent, whether you were willing or not, there would be a qualitative change. This was the reason why Hanfei took Hansong and Zhang Daqian with him. He felt that by fusing all 3, there might be a change in his immortal level. But the problem was that there was no upper limit or lower limit for the immortal level. Everyone had 50 pieces of Star River source power, and no one was stronger than the other, so there was no quantitative change. This was the fundamental reason why most people ignored this technique. However, Hanfei felt that if 2 immortals were forcibly fused, they shouldn't only become one. Otherwise, where did the other go? Did it turn into energy and settle in his body? Hanfei was also afraid of sacrificing an immortal level avatar for nothing. So he hadn't used all things 3 because he hoped to find some answers on the path of no return. Unfortunately, Hanfei didn't get anything. Forget it. Hanfei didn't want to wait. There was no answer he wanted here. Besides, in the past 3 years, the return ruins had shaken dozens of times, and Hanfei often felt the strong summoning. Finally, on this day, Hanfei said, Linglan. In the past 3 years, Shimin Linglan didn't cultivate but looked at Hanfei. Hanfei had always known it, but he couldn't resist the summoning. Or rather, if he didn't go, that power would become his obsession. Summoning. Or rather, if he didn't go, that power would become his obsession. Hanfei seemed to understand why none of the powerhouses who had broken through to the immortal level returned. It was because they also felt this a summoning that seemed to be fate. Shimin Linglan's body trembled slightly. Are you leaving? Hanfei nodded and was silent for a moment. I still have you, Xiao Xiaochan. And Yi. Although I don't know why I'm going there, I will return. After all, my purpose of this trip is to return. Shimin Linglan smiled, and the blade of hope appeared in front of her, coming to Hanfei. Take it with you. I hope you won't despair no matter what situation you're in. This is and our hope. Hanfei nodded slightly. Okay. Hanfei was about to move, which attracted the attention of everyone on the Return Ruins Island. The strange man said, Fellow Taoist Han, take care. The woman in black said, May you return triumphantly. Someone sighed. I really want to see the world you are in. I'm already tired of cultivation. Brother Han, you must return. Hanfei cupped his hands. Thank you for your kindness. I'll go first. Buzz. Hanfei stepped into the mist with Han Song and Zhang Daqian and disappeared in front of everyone. Seeing Hanfei leave, Shimin Linglan immediately sat cross-legged and covered an area with the law of time. She activated time acceleration and began to cultivate. Hanfei was working hard, and she didn't want to slack off. She didn't know when they would meet again. She didn't want to die. She wanted to accompany Hanfei to see the prosperity of the world and the vicissitudes of life. Therefore, she wanted to cultivate, catch up with Hanfei's realm, and go to his side again. Seeing this, someone couldn't help but sigh. I've cultivated for countless years, but I don't know why I cultivate, alas. Someone sighed. Now that I think about it, it's good to be an ordinary person and repeat reincarnation forever. It's so carefree. In the mist, Hanfei finally walked alone. However, even with Zhang Daqian, no more great Tao spiritual body was born. Bang! The distant sky trembled again, and a strong wind rose from the sea of great Taos, pushing Hanfei forward. The strength of this wind was rare in the world. Even Hanfei felt that it couldn't go back. There seemed to be some kind of causal law hidden in the wind. After only a moment, Hanfei was pushed to a strange place by the strong wind. On the sea of Great Taos, there was a terrifying vortex spinning. Countless vortexes surged into it from all directions. It seemed that nothing could escape from the suction of the vortex. Hanfei knew that this was the only way to the return ruins. Hanfei and Han Song grabbed Zhang Daqian at the same time and fell into the vortex at the same time. Buzz. What came into view was a blood-colored mist that enveloped the boundless void. In the mist, countless bubbles appeared. It seemed that in the endlessly distant mysterious area, a certain scene appeared in the sky through the bubbles and gradually became clear. It was a palace. Although it was still a little blurry, Hanfei had already sensed its grandeur and majesty, as well as its intimidating and terrifying aura. Hanfei had already approached the palace, but the palace in his eyes was already stained with blood. Kill. Ear-splitting sounds burst out of the palace. Hanfei saw an arrow shadow carrying the world shooting into the distance. The arrow was shot somewhere. Because Hanfei's vision was blocked by the palace. Everyone, new people have come. A voice was resounding, spreading throughout this strange space, covering the blood-colored mist. Hanfei finally stepped into this mysterious palace at this moment, but he didn't see the person who spoke. They seemed to be on the other side of the palace. The arrow just now was also shot from the other side of the palace. In front of Han Fei, the palace was open, and towering divine pillars carved from great Tao talismans stood on both sides of the palace. Han Fei looked up and saw that this palace was at least billions of kilometers high. Han Fei could guarantee that this was the largest palace he had ever seen. It was even bigger and grander than the myriad god palace on the first battlefield of the chaotic sea. There were great Tao runes on it. After condensing, 2 ancient words were outlined: return ruins. As Han Fei stepped into the palace, it was a path that extended far away. There were towering statues, only slightly shorter than the palace itself. These statues stood in a row. At a glance, there were 3,000 of them, no more, no less. On the dome, there were stars all over the sky, painted with great Tao runes. In the painting, it seemed to be describing ancient history. Han Fei stood still and looked up. He was interpreting these great Tao runes and understanding their profound meaning. Han Fei recited, from the beginning of the void, 7 mysterious substances floated in the void. They are respectively the primordial, the chaos, the mystic yellow, the immortal martial, the heavenly spirit, the origin energy, and the ominous. They are all ominous. These mysterious substances all have indestructible characteristics. After reading so much, Han Fei was surprised to find that the ominous was a mysterious power like the chaos and the primordial. On the Return Ruins Island, Han Fei knew that there were a total of 5 seas of stars. Now it seemed that there was also an unheard-of immortal martial star sea and an ominous one. However, Han Fei didn't quite understand. Could it be that this so-called ominous star sea was the source of ominous creatures? In that case, the ominous star sea should have an entrance somewhere on the path of no return. And what were the return ruins here? Han Fei continued to interpret the ancient painting. After a long time, these 7 substances began to flash with divine light. They took root, germinated, and produced their own domains. In the end, they bloomed, turned into 7 seas of stars, and rotated forever. The 7 worlds were interconnected, accompanied by 3,000 demon gods who were guarding the 7 worlds. Han Fei couldn't help but look at the 3,000 statues. Was this the so-called 3,000 demon gods? The numbers corresponded. The 7 worlds gave birth to creatures, each extraordinary. In the eternal cycle, the 7 worlds gave birth to the most primitive ancestor level powerhouses, a total of 7. The portrait showed 7 people holding hands, about to leave the 7 worlds and walk towards the unknown. In the outer domain, there was nothing, until they encountered an ultimate dark creature. Its body was boundless, swallowing the void and spreading in the direction of the 7 worlds. Therefore, the 7 of them tried to join forces and attack it together. However, the 7 of them encountered a great enemy. In the void, they fought fiercely for countless years and successfully annihilated the ultimate dark creature. Only then did they realize that something was wrong. This creature was too big and boundless, as if it had already become a part of the void. Therefore, they stopped and returned. At this moment, the ominous rebelled, causing the other 6 to be swallowed by the ultimate dark creatures. When they killed their way out of the ultimate darkness, it was already countless ages later. Among them, the strong masters from the mystic yellow world, the heavenly spirit world, and the origin energy world had already died. The 3 strong masters from the primordial world, the chaos world, and the immortal martial world were also seriously injured. When they returned, they found that, except for the ominous realm, their respective realms had been destroyed. The 3,000 demon gods had all been contaminated by the ominous and submitted to the ominous. The three of them were furious and launched revenge on the ominous. They entered the ominous world and forcibly killed the ominous. Because its fusion with the power of the world couldn't be obliterated, they dismembered it. However, in this battle, the primordial powerhouse who was already seriously injured died. The chaotic and immortal martial powerhouses survived, but the chaotic powerhouse seemed to be seriously injured. Han Fei couldn't help being shocked. So this was the story. If his guess was correct, the woman he saw through the time river and the primordial sea was the immortal martial powerhouse. At that time, she seemed to have been seriously injured and was bathed in blood. She recreated the primordial star sea and sealed the demon purification pot and the creation jade plate in it. Logically speaking, she should have also recreated the chaotic star sea, but perhaps because her injuries were too serious, or because the chaotic powerhouse was still alive, she didn't do that in the end. Han Fei hurriedly continued to read, only to find that when the immortal martial powerhouse went to seal the ominous, the chaotic powerhouse blocked 3,000 demon gods alone. He didn't hesitate to cut off part of his self and turn it into a sea of great chaos, isolating the 7 worlds in order to maintain the separation of the 7 worlds and make the body parts of the ominous, suppressed by the immortal martial powerhouse, be separated forever. After that, he created the return ruins and suppressed the 3,000 demon gods forever. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. The great Tao Sea was actually transformed from a part of the chaotic powerhouse. How strong was this person? And there were actually 7 such terrifying guys at the beginning. When Han Fei finished looking at the painting in the sky, he had unknowingly come to a door that led to the other side of the palace. Squeak. Caw, caw, caw. As the infinitely tall door was pushed open by Han Fei, he saw the towering city wall in front of him, where figures bathed in blood stood proudly. There were a total of 37 people here, all immortals, all stained with blood. At this moment, these people all looked back at where Han Fei was. Huh? A new dominator can also come here? A 3-headed divine dog, whose body was like a star, looked at Zhang Daqian with intimidating eyes. A blood-colored demon ape held a huge Vajra rod and laughed. That's right. 2 immortals have come. I'm a little surprised. There was a white-haired man with a divine body 1,000,000 feet long. His hair fluttered in the starry sky, and there was a sword embryo between his eyebrows that emitted divine light. On his left, right, and in front, there was a long sword each. At this moment, he had already slashed out, and the terrifying sword chi seemed to instantly cross the vast sea of stars. There was also a 6-armed god who was glaring angrily. He held a green and blue bow in his hand, held the bow in 3 hands, and pulled the bowstring with 3 hands. The arrow just now seemed to have been shot by him. Among this group of people, Han Fei saw an acquaintance who was domineering and powerful. On one of his arms, there was an azure dragon lying on the ground. In his other hand, he held a long sword. The third eye between his eyebrows indicated that he was walking the path of invincibility. Junior brother, how have you been? I knew you would come one day. Han Fei was shocked. These people were all ferocious and bathed in blood. Their battle suits looked rotten, but their will was overwhelming and domineering. The one who greeted Han Fei was Song Tian. Han Fei smiled. Senior brother, long time no see. They were indeed senior and junior brothers, because both Song Tian and Han Fei walked the supreme path. An evil-looking Kylan that was chewing stars looked at Han Fei and said, "Immortal Sangtian, do you know this newcomer?" Sangtian laughed. "This is my dear junior brother." Han Fei walked in the air, taking Han Song and Zhang Daqian with him. The divine voice in Han Fei's mouth shook. "Everyone, my name is Han Fei. I'm from the chaotic star sea." Sangtian looked at Zhang Daqian and said, "Why did you bring a guy who has just entered the Dominator realm here?" Han Fei was not afraid of these 37 people, although they all looked extremely ferocious, like 37 blood demonic monarchs. Han Fei replied calmly, "This is my avatar." Someone said, "Even if he's your avatar, he's too weak. It's meaningless for him to come. Fuse him." Someone asked, "What about the other one? What's his name?" However, Han Fei continued, "This is also my avatar." Upon hearing this, the 37 people all shut up, but the way they looked at Han Fei had changed a little. Good lord, this guy had even cultivated his avatar to the immortal level. This was a little ridiculous. "Ha ha ha." Sangtian laughed. "As expected of you, junior brother. You're really talented." "Junior brother, how is the ominous in the chaotic star sea?" Han Fei stepped on the towering city wall and said indifferently, "It has been killed. The ominous has been eliminated." Sangtian was briefly stunned, and the evil-looking Kylan asked, "What do you mean by eliminated?" Han Fei turned his head and looked at the evil-looking Kylan, only to find that it looked a little familiar. He said, "Eliminating it means finding the source of the ominous, which is 2 severed limbs of the ominous, and sealing them again." "Oh?" Someone asked, "Where is the seal?" Buzz. Han Fei raised his hand, and the demon purification pot appeared. Then, Han Fei said, "Here." A phantom reflected in the sky. It was 2 severed arms that were still dripping with blood. The blood could transform into ominous matter. Someone glanced sideways and praised, "There are so many talents in the chaotic star sea." The broken limbs were actually suppressed and completely sealed. However, fellow Taoist Han Fei, why did you bring them here? Han Fei said, "Of course I wanted to take it into the path of return and obliterate it. Unfortunately, I didn't succeed. I didn't know where these severed limbs came from until I came to the return ruins." Someone sighed. "This is understandable. No one wants this thing to stay in their territory. We didn't know the source of all this until we entered the return ruins." Someone was puzzled. "Fellow Taoist Han Fei, why do you have 2 broken arms?" Han Fei looked at the man. "Perhaps I didn't make it clear. 1 severed arm. For 1 ominous. 2 parts make 2. Buzz. The evil-looking Kylan asked, "Is 1 from the primordial star sea?" Han Fei looked at the evil-looking Kylan in surprise and thought for a moment. "Are you Li Daoi's Kylan?" Few people knew about the primordial star sea and knew that it was connected to the primordial star sea. In history, only Li Daoi had killed his way into the primordial star sea. But Li Daoi was obviously not here, and Han Fei finally remembered this. Kylan. Wasn't this the little Kylan beast that Li Daoi raised? "My name is Primordial Kylan." Han Fei smiled. "Interesting. The primordial star tree is so weak. I didn't expect you to be so strong." "Oh, have you seen that stupid tree?" Han Fei turned his head and looked out of the city wall. "Yes, he is doing well. He should be enjoying life now." The primordial Kylan snorted heavily. Shoal, he doesn't want to improve at All. His potential is not bad, but he doesn't want to fight. He's willing to degrade himself. A useless waste. Han Fei thought to himself, everyone has their own goals. He was just a tree. However, at this moment, looking at Han Fei outside the city, he was no longer in the mood to talk to the primordial Kylan, because the scene outside the city wall shocked him. It was a battlefield that looked like a dream. It was as if many worlds were spreading out along the way. There was divine blood pouring out, and blurry figures were fighting fiercely. Outside the boundless battlefield, in a dim yellow place among billions of broken stars, a blood-colored altar appeared at the end of his vision. On the altar, there was a blurry figure guarding it, as if he was watching this place from afar. Han Fei's heart trembled. The strong summoning seemed to be on the altar. However, why were they fighting now? On the nearest battlefield, Han Fei could see that someone was fighting a humanoid creature engraved with mysterious runes. The ferocious arrow just now was aimed at that creature. The latter suddenly turned his head and waved his hand, and the thousand-star brilliance world burst out with infinite divine light. He slapped out with his hand, shattering the void as if breaking that world. The roar came from the deep sky and spread into the city. Swish. Within the range of this city, holy light appeared, forming a barrier, blocking this energy fluctuation. At this point, Han Fei knew where the quake in the return ruins came from. It was from the creatures on the battlefield. The aftershock of the battle bombarded this city and reflected into the sea of great chaos. Han Fei's pupils were constricted. Who are you fighting? Where is my eldest senior brother? Where is teacher prophet? Where is Li Daoi? Where is the first supreme? Song Tian said leisurely, my teacher is fighting, Li Daoi is fighting, so is Void. Old man prophet's strength couldn't increase all the time and he died. I personally saw him off. Although Han Fei was mentally prepared, he still sighed when he heard that the prophet had left. Han Fei asked again, who are you fighting? Song Tian looked at the battlefield and said indifferently, the 3,000 demon gods. Chapter 36:99 It turns out that I've been warring for 100,000 years. 1. Why are you fighting? Outside the city wall, on the battlefield, there seemed to be worlds collapsing and scenes of the heavens dissipating. And there were as many as 298 battlefields. This also meant that there were 298 immortals fighting here. It could be seen that since ancient times, there had been so many people who had stepped into the immortal level. Someone said, it's not that we want to fight, but we have to. There are two reasons. Firstly, it's a call from the bottom of our hearts. We want to go to the altar. Secondly, if we don't fight, the 3,000 demon gods will counterattack and shake the return ruins. Once the return ruin city is broken, the great Tao Sea won't be able to suppress the 3,000 immortals, and the 7 worlds will definitely perish. Han Fei frowned and asked again, the 298 battlefields can contain at most 298 demon gods. Why don't the remaining demon gods attack? Song Tian said, take a look. Han Fei's gaze fell on the battlefield. When he looked further away, he discovered that on some battlefields, there were immortal powerhouses who were fighting dozens of immortal demon gods alone. In fact, at the front, there seemed to be someone fighting 100 immortal demon gods alone. Well, before Han Fei could continue to watch, suddenly, a riot broke out on a certain battlefield. Han Fei took a closer look and asked in shock, eldest senior brother? On a certain battlefield, eldest senior brother was assimilating the void and swallowing the world. Eldest senior brother distorted the boundless void and turned into a drop of water, enveloping him. The drop of water went straight to the altar. Yes, eldest senior brother didn't want to fight anymore. Everyone was in the same realm, so he wanted to use agility to avoid this battle and rush straight to the altar. On the battlefields, seeing that eldest senior brother was attacking, the strong masters crossed the boundless battlefield one after another to open the way for him. There was no communication, but their cooperation was so tacit. Obviously, this was not the first time they had done this. Eldest senior brother's original body was the void, and his methods were strange. The void water droplet resonated with the surrounding dozens of battlefields. For a moment, the world hummed. However, there were 3,000 demon gods. How could they let eldest senior brother do this? Some of the demon gods blocked at the front, their bodies blooming with infinite light, illuminating each other, intertwining with each other, and the divine light seemed to be integrated, forming a wall of gods and demons. Hula. In the next moment, eldest senior brother turned into a void wave and surged forward. Beside Han Fei, some held bows, and some held spears. The sky condensed a sword and slashed out crazily. The primordial Kylan spewed out purple divine light and fell into the battlefield. Seeing this, Han Fei also tried his best. With a thought, he produced the power of time, which turned into a sword that could twist time and slash at the wall of demon god. Han Song threw a seed, which turned into billions of vines in the void, clinging to the wall of gods and demons as if absorbing the other parties. Power. Boom, boom, boom. Bang. 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 Infinite waves exploded on the battlefield, and light explosions kept erupting. Divine light illuminated the void, and all the battlefields were shaking. The void was shaking, and billions of great Tao runes were pouring down. Roar. The 3,000 demon gods opened their mouths at the same time. All of them erupted with monstrous chi and blood, magnificent and boundless, covering the battlefield again, piercing through the void tide, and destroying the killing techniques that filled the sky at that moment. Han Fei couldn't help being shocked. The chi and blood of these 3,000 gods were too rich. They blotted out the sky and spread throughout the entire battlefield, even reaching the ultimate, causing a huge uproar. Bang! The void water pearl exploded, and eldest senior brother appeared, but he was pushed back by the boundless bloody hand. The bloody hand seemed to carry the power of these demon gods. Even eldest senior brother couldn't resist it and was forced back, unable to move forward. In the end, eldest senior brother's sprint failed. The 3,000 demon gods were still too strong, so strong that it made one's hair stand on end. As immortals, their comprehensive combat power was about the same. It could be imagined how difficult it was to break through the blockade of 3,000 people at once. At this time, beside Han Fei, Song Tian said, "The 3,000 demon gods are very strong. However, we will still charge. We can't kill them, but they can't kill us. Besides, they are guarding the altar, which means that there must be something extraordinary on the altar." Someone added, "In the past, we all showed our abilities and attacked together, but we were still no match for them. In the end, we could only restrain each other. They couldn't come over, but we couldn't rush over. Someone continued, therefore, there are two keys to breaking the situation. One is that we have reached the altar. The other is that some of us can cross the immortal level and become existences beyond the immortal level. Hanfei asked, have you all tried to reach the Taoist realm? The primordial Kylan said, when Master and I came, there were 321 immortals. Here. Now, there are only 298 left. Do you know where these people disappeared? 2? Hanfei frowned, but the primordial Kylan didn't wait for Hanfei's answer. It just said, those people tried to break through to the Taoist realm and died in the process of breaking through. So far, no one has succeeded. Someone said, we know about the Taoist realm, but it's too difficult. After countless years of discussion and speculation, the so-called Taoist realm should be different for everyone. In other words, if everyone wants to break through this realm, there is no fixed method. They have to explore it themselves. If they fail, they will be seriously injured or even die. The 37 of us tried to break through to this realm, but were seriously injured and had to return to the return ruins to recover. Hanfei couldn't help raising his eyebrows. It turned out that they chose to stay in the city of return ruins because of this. Chapter 3700. It turns out that I've been warring for 100,000 years. 2. Someone said, Brother Hanfei, we haven't tried this method because we don't have the conditions. It's already extremely difficult for us to become immortal. You're the first to cultivate an avatar to the immortal level. To be honest, when they learned that Han Song was just an avatar, they were shocked. Although there were so many immortal level powerhouses in the return ruins, these immortal level powerhouses came from the 6 worlds. Furthermore, it had been countless eras before they accumulated so many immortals. No matter in which aspect, those who could reach the immortal level were all peerless heavenly talents with great luck. Therefore, it was enough to shock them that Hanfei could cultivate 2 immortals alone. At this moment, in the field, eldest senior brother was already retreating. But the demon gods were unwilling and began to chase and stop him. They seemed to be saying that it was fine to rush forward, but since they couldn't, it was also a problem whether they could escape. Hanfei said, let me try. Roar. Hanfei stepped out of the city wall and charged into the chaos like a beam of divine light. Hanfei roared and activated all his techniques, raising his strength to its peak in an instant. His invincible body surged with blood and qi like a sea, rolling up the boundless blood and qi wall on the battlefield. Kill. Hanfei held the blood sky blade, which was shining with divine light. The surrounding battlefield was tainted by his blood qi. Someone's eyes flickered. Hey! Fellow Taoist Hanfei is very murderous and ferocious. He must be the kind of powerhouse who has proven his Tao by killing all the way, right? Someone nodded. That should be the case. Such overwhelming killing intent is almost condensing into a true will. Clang. Hanfei's blade bloomed, but a demon god had already taken action to stop him. This was the first time Hanfei had fought an immortal demon god head-on. The first clash was close combat, but no information about the demon god appeared in Hanfei's eyes at all. Perhaps the 3,000 demon gods were too strong or too ancient. In any case, the demon purification pot didn't read the information of this demon god. However, because the immortal demon god had been fighting all year round, he didn't realize how dangerous Hanfei was, let alone how terrifying Hanfei was. In close combat. In an instant, Han Fei forcibly pulled out the other party's river of life. However, at a glance, Han Fei knew that this kind of river of life couldn't be cut apart. This was not a F*King tributary of the river of life at all, but a part of the river of life itself. When his plan failed, the other party tried to deal with Han Fei in the same way. Supreme Han Fei's killing intent trembled, and all the Dao techniques here were shattered. The void collapsed. Han Fei had already known the river of life well. How could he give this person a chance? All of this happened in the blink of an eye. In the next moment, the two parties began to fight hand to hand. Fist light, knife intent, sword chi, seal. Techniques. Countless great techniques emerged one after another. On average, Han Fei would change his combat skills every second. Immortal demon gods were not omnipotent. The immortal level powerhouses had their own strengths and weaknesses in combat. Otherwise, wouldn't the immortal level powerhouses all be like clones? Although everyone had mastered the Tao of Origin and the Tao of Origin, they had their own preferences for the use of Tao techniques. And what Han Fei liked most was pure combat skills. He had been fighting like this since he was young, and now was no exception. On the city wall of the Return Ruins, everyone looked at Han Fei's crazy beast-like combat skills, his fatal moves, and his strange combination of Tao techniques, and couldn't help but exclaim. Someone said, "I really can't tell. This is the first time he has fought 3,000 demon gods. It seems that he has fought countless times before." Someone smiled and said, "Even his avatar can become immortal." What's so surprising about such a battle? In the field, Han Fei didn't just come to fight. On one hand, he wanted to feel the strength of immortal demon gods, and on the other hand, he wanted to cover for eldest senior brother. Han Fei immediately turned into billions of lightning marks, flowing in the void and rushing forward. Seeing this, the surrounding dozens of immortal demon gods began to stop him. However, they were all in the same realm, so Han Fei still restrained more than 20 immortal demon gods. Soon, eldest senior brother had retreated. After seeing Han Fei felt that eldest senior brother had become more amiable, and his previous indifferent temperament had faded a lot. Eldest senior brother smiled. "Little junior brother, I've demonstrated the difficulty of reaching the altar for you. If you want to go to the altar in the future, you can take what you saw today as reference. By the way, how is the chaotic star sea?" Han Fei was shocked. It turned out that eldest senior brother had already discovered his arrival, so he deliberately made a demonstration for him. Han Fei cast a spiritual will over, and the two of them quickly communicated. Eldest senior brother looked gratified and said, "Since you're already in the arena, you can feel the strength of this immortal demon god first. I can feel that these immortal demon gods are not puppets, but conscious. This should be related to the great Tao runes on their bodies. These runes are a little special, more like some kind of creature brand. Perhaps I can strengthen this brand." Huh? Han Fei was shocked and then thought of something. Eldest senior brother knew Han Fei very well. He said this to Han Fei because he saw Zhang Daqian on the Return Ruins.